Step into the world of the ancient Romans and you're immediately struck by the opulence, the power, the pageantry. The Colosseum roars with the excitement of the gladiator games. The Forum buzzes with the bartering of merchants and the whispers of senators. And then there's the smell. The intoxicating aroma of incense mingling with the more pungent odor of waste in a world without modern plumbing. Amidst this spectacle, it's easy to overlook the unsung heroes whose work was essential, but unseen, the fullones, the Roman laundry workers. Imagine a grimy tunic or a senator's toga, soiled by the dust of chariot rides or the grime of everyday life. These garments weren't simply tossed aside. Instead, they were brought to the fullones, the specialists who understood the delicate science of stain removal and the painstaking process of textile cleaning. Their workshops were humble, often tucked away in the shadows of Rome's grand buildings, far from the marble halls and echoing fountains. Yet within these modest spaces, a fascinating alchemy took place. The fullones' work wasn't just about scrubbing and rinsing. It was a carefully choreographed dance with water, the most crucial ingredient. It was a precious resource in the ancient world, and the fullones knew its value. They'd often set up shop near public baths or aqueducts, ensuring a steady supply of this liquid gold. One particular bathhouse, the Balnea Aemilia Poli, offers us a glimpse into their world. Located beneath the Palatine Hill, it was here that the fullones toiled, their rhythmic work providing a stark contrast to the leisure and relaxation taking place above them. Their tools were simple, yet effective, often passed down from one generation of fullones to the next. Wooden mallets were used to pound soiled garments, helping loosen the dirt and sweat that clung to the fabric. The process was labor-intensive, demanding a level of physical endurance that modern conveniences have long replaced. But the fullones didn't just rely on brute force. They understood the power of chemistry, using natural ingredients like vinegar and urine to break down stains and brighten fabrics. In fact, it was highly valued for its ammonia content, which made it an excellent cleaning agent and fabric softener. It might seem odd to us today, but to the Romans, it was a common practice, even employed by the Emperor Nero. He was known to use urine for cleaning and as a surprising ingredient in his beauty regimen. The fullones weren't just cleaning clothes, they were preserving history. Many of the textiles they worked on were inscribed with important information. From the names of senators to the records of military victories, their careful cleaning methods ensured that these historical accounts remained legible, allowing future generations to learn from and be inspired by their past. Their trade wasn't without its challenges. Fullones often worked long and irregular hours. Their workday dictated by the whims of their wealthy clients and the seasons of the year. During the summer months, when sweat and dirt combined to make clothing even more soiled, their workload would increase dramatically. Additionally, they had to contend with dishonest clients who might try to conceal particularly stubborn stains in the hopes of avoiding extra charges. Despite the challenges, the fullones played a vital role in keeping the wheels of Roman society turning. A senator showing up to a public event in dirty, ill-smelling clothes would be a scandal, a breach of decorum that could undermine their authority and social standing. The fullones, therefore, were essential in maintaining the image and reputation of Rome's elite. Next time you put on a garment, take a moment to appreciate the journey it has been through, the countless hands that have washed and cared for it, just as the fullones in ancient Rome kept the city clean and its citizens presentable. So do the modern-day laundry workers keep our world fresh and our clothes ready for the day. Their work, though often unseen and underappreciated, is a testament to the enduring human spirit. Our drive to create order from chaos and to keep our world a little cleaner, one garment at a time. Welcome to my channel. In the fading light before dawn, a fullone stirs in his small room above his shop. Below him, the noisy bustling of Rome is slowly waking up. Soon, the streets will be filling with people going about their business, senators on their way to the Forum, merchants ready to trade, artisans eager to craft. But here in this modest room above the Fullonica, or laundry shop, the day has already begun. He rises from his humble bed, probably nothing more than a straw mattress laid on a wooden frame, and walks barefoot onto the cool flagstones of the room floor. For this fullone, a middle-aged man named Titus, this space is more than just a bedroom. It's also his home. His wife and children probably sleep in the same room, sharing its small space with him, and they all share its single window, which right now offers little more than a sliver of pre-dawn darkness. Yet Titus knows that in a few hours the room will be flooded with sunlight, and he can already hear the sounds of the city beginning to stir. The familiar calls of vendors, the clatter of carts on cobblestone streets, and the murmuring of people waking up to another day in the eternal city. Titus runs a hand through his graying hair and begins to dress. His tunic, a simple knee-length garment of rough hemp, is nearly as worn as he is. It has seen better days, but it's honest, serviceable work clothes. For a man whose hands are more used to handling dirty laundry than crafting fine speeches or statues. Speaking of which, he pulls on his leather apron, a shield against the grime and stain that will inevitably find their way onto his person during the day. Then he heads out of his room and down a narrow set of wooden stairs to the Fullonica itself. Here in the dim lamplight, amidst the earthy smell of wet wool and stale urine, Titus's day really begins. Before him lie rows of large, roughly hewn stone basins, each filled with lukewarm water that gleams faintly in the flickering light. In this space, amid the low ceilings and shadows, the rhythmic work of the full one unfolds. And while these tasks may seem mundane to us, to the ancient Romans, the work of cleaning their clothing was a vital service. A clean set of garments was not merely a matter of personal hygiene, but a sign of civic pride, social status, and individual piety. The full one's work was essential to the health and appearance of Rome's citizens, both men and women. Laundering was done not by hand, but by foot, treading the water in the stone baths. The full ones would stand chest deep in the vats, working the soiled fabrics to remove dirt and stains. Water used in the process, often mixed with urine, acted as a solvent to break down oils and other residues, aided by the abrasive action of pumice stones and scrapers. The urine's ammonia helped to whiten and deodorize fabrics. Each garment required several dips in different vats, each with its own temperature and chemical composition. Fine linens and delicate garments received specialized care, often by hand, while coarser materials could withstand the rougher treatment of the treading vats. But how did the full ones get those precious liquids? The answer lies in the very heart of Rome. As Titus steps into the first bath, we should pause and consider how he came to be a full one. Like many Romans, Titus likely began his career as a slave. Fullonica were generally family businesses, and the owner, usually a freedman himself, might have had his family working alongside him. His sons would follow their father's trade, learning its secrets from a young age. Daughters could help with sorting and finishing the clothes, perhaps even managing the household side of the business. And so Titus's son, Marcus, assists his father by collecting the urine from the public latrines. A task not considered too undignified for a Roman youth, especially if he was hoping to take over the family Fullonica one day. Carrying clay amphoras filled with the potent urine, Marcus navigates the crowded streets of Rome, dodging pedestrians and vendors until he reaches the shops and houses where customers have left their laundry. With the urine secured in the oella, a woven basket slung over his shoulder, Marcus makes his way back to the Fullonica. There, the urine is saved for later use in the cleaning process. A critical ingredient in the creation of soap and the removal of grease from dirty laundry. In fact, the urine's ammonia content made it an effective cleaning agent, helping to lift dirt and grime from fabrics without damaging them. This wasn't a scientific understanding, but through trial and error. The Romans learned what the urine could do, using it to advantage in their cleaning process. The urine would be stored in clay jars or leathern bags, covered to keep out impurities like flies and other insects, until it was needed. When the time came, the urine would be mixed with water in varying proportions depending on the task at hand. Some mixtures were stronger, better for removing tough stains and grease, while others were milder and more suitable for delicate fabrics. The amount of urine used also varied based on the scale of the job, a small load of laundry requiring less than a full jar, while a king's outfit might need several, to make soap a substance essential to the fullery process. Animal fat was combined with lye, a strong alkali made from wood ash. The urine played a crucial role, helping to control the pH levels of the mixture and ensuring the right consistency of the eventual bar of soap. The soap was used not only for cleaning clothes, but for personal hygiene as well, making it yet another important product of this unusual ingredient. As Marcus grows older, he learns all aspects of the fullery business, becoming adept at identifying stains and choosing the right treatments. Each garment, each piece of cloth presented new challenges, new mysteries to solve. Over time, he He becomes known throughout Rome for his skill and reliability, building a clientele of loyal customers who wouldn't trust anyone else with their prized togas and tunics. Now, stepping into the first bath, the water level comes just below his shoulders. He moves with a practiced ease, dipping a rough woolen toga in the water and letting it soak. He treads the water gently, letting the weight of the fabric press him down, while he pushes against the basin-esque floor with the soles of his feet. He's careful not to let any of the soapy water spill onto the floor, wasting it and disrupting the carefully balanced mixture. Each garment requires a different approach. Treads must be gentle enough to avoid tearing delicate fabrics, yet firm enough to loosen dirt and stains. In this dimly lit room, the full one works steadily, rhythmically, lost in the task at hand. The water around him, cloudy with dirt and grime, gradually clears, revealing the bright white of the fabric underneath. It's a slow, arduous process, but one that's essential to the lives of Romans who rely on the full one for keeping their clothes clean and their city sanitary. It's a physically demanding job, but Titus takes it seriously, taking pride in his work and the important service he provides to his community. For him, there's no greater satisfaction than seeing a garment emerge from the baths clean and fresh, ready to be worn by a Roman citizen who will face the day ahead looking their best. And as the sun finally begins to peek over the rooftops of Rome, bathing the city in golden light, the full one knows that his work is far from finished. But with each step he takes in the shallow water, with each dip of cloth in the murky water, he is playing his part in the great drama of Roman life, keeping the city clean one toga at a time. You want to learn more about ancient Rome? Stay tuned for more videos. Welcome to Fullonica, a laundry service unlike any other. We specialize in cleaning even the most stubborn stains from even the finest garments. Our techniques are ancient and our methods tried and true. Here at Fullonica, we take pride in our work. After all, there's nothing quite so satisfying as a basket full of freshly laundered white linen. That's why our foreman Marcus takes his position so seriously. He's been working here for nearly 20 years and knows every last trick of the trade. It's also why he's been watching you closely since you've started working at Fullonica just over a week ago. You may think that by now he must have decided whether or not he likes you, but he still hasn't made up his mind. That doesn't mean he's not noticed how you throw yourself into each task, how you listen intently when he demonstrates a technique or offers advice, how you don't complain despite the heavy baskets and aching muscles. Still, there are certain qualities he looks for in a worker, and you haven't been here long enough for him to tell if you measure up. Time and patience are necessary to master the skills required at Fullonica. There's no room for mistakes. If a garment is damaged, there's no fixing it. If a customer receives a garment stained or incomplete, they won't come back. But he'll admit there's something different about you. What exactly that means, he isn't sure. You aren't from here. That much is obvious. Most people who find themselves in need of laundering clothes wind up at Fullonica because they know we do the best work in Rome. So why did you seek them out? Why does a person with your fine clothes and finer manners come to work at a bathhouse? He's seen many a noble and senator walk through these doors, but none have ever stayed. Yet you seem determined to master every aspect of the work, from sorting through the mountains of dirty laundry to the complicated process of removing stains and repairing tears. Despite your unfamiliarity with many of the tasks, you never shy away from a challenge. When you take on a basket of soiled linen, you attack it with fierce determination. When you find a particularly stubborn stain, you don't panic or call for help. Instead, you analyze the fabric, identify the right solution, and apply it with steady hands and a quiet confidence. There's no doubt you're good at your job, perhaps too good. While your results speak for themselves, it's your demeanor that has Marcus unsettled. For example, you don't laugh or joke around like the others, even when one of the workers makes a lewd gesture at a passing woman. Instead, you stare at him in disapproval until he sheepishly covers his private parts. You don't socialize with the other workers during breaks, and you keep your meals to yourself. You've declined invitations to the taverna, where wine flows freely and conversation is even better. Though some of the workers have taken offense to your presence, you've made no effort to smooth things over. Instead, you've simply continued working. Your silence and seriousness have begun to rub some of the workers the wrong way. You don't share their easy laughter or partake in their gossip. You don't care about their children or parents or where they grew up. In fact, you barely seem to acknowledge their existence. Even the foreman has been hesitant to talk to you, unsure how to breach the wall you've built around yourself. Your colleagues have asked questions about your past, about where you're from and what brings you to Fullonica. You've always answered in the same clipped manner, refusing to elaborate, though you may think you're hiding yourself. Your colleagues have pieced together bits and pieces of your story. You're a soldier, a veteran of Caesar's legions, discharged from service and seeking honest work. A nobleman's son, fleeing your father's wrath after a scandalous love affair. A disgraced senator, banished from the city, and hiding your face behind a hood. Each of these theories has its merits, yet none can fully explain your presence at Fullonica. Why would a soldier, a nobleman, or a senator take up such menial work? Why would you allow yourself to be confined within these four walls, surrounded by dirty clothes and even dirtier customers? They know you're hiding something, but you won't say what. What happened to make you so guarded, so secretive? How did you become the man who walks among them like a ghost, silent and watchful, a mystery wrapped in wool and linen? It's just another day at the laundromat. You and your fellow workers are knee-deep in dirty water, scrubbing and trampling on piles of soiled laundry. Sweat drips down your brow and back as you work, but you don't bother wiping it away. You're too focused on the task at hand. Suddenly, a new arrival stumbles into the Fullonica. It's a young woman, dressed in fine clothes and dripping wet. She looks around nervously before approaching you. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she says, her voice trembling slightly, "but I need your help. My name is Livia. I was traveling to Pompeii with my family when our carriage overturned. We were soaked to the bone, and I had to change into dry clothes. Unfortunately, the inn we stopped at didn't have any extras, so I took off my wedding dress and left it there to be washed. The owner promised to send it to me as soon as it was clean, but it's been days and I haven't heard from him. My husband is expecting me to wear it tonight for a very important dinner, and I'm afraid it might be ruined. Please, I beg of you, can you clean it for me?" As she speaks, she pulls a large bundle from her bag and drops it into the nearest basin. You look up at her for a moment, then back at the pile of laundry. "Sorry, child," you say, "but we don't have time for such favors. We have our own customers to think about." The woman's face falls, and she looks down at the dirty dress. "I'll pay you anything," she whispers. "Just please help me. It's so important." You shake your head and turn back to your work. Tossing a pebble into the water to distract yourself from the woman's desperate pleas, you get down to business. There's no time to waste. With the sunset quickly approaching, you know that you and your fellow workers have a lot of work to do before the evening is through. A knock at the door, a quick glance over your shoulder, and you are instantly transformed from a modern-day tourist to a washerwoman in ancient Rome. Ah, welcome. Welcome to my little shop here in the heart of the Eternal City. Drop your basket in the corner there. Yes, next to the other customer's basket. No need to thank me yet. Our work here is not yet finished. Let us get to work. Your toga? Looks like it could use a good washing. Wine stains? Is that blood? Interesting. Very interesting. What about that rent? Oh, don't worry. We'll get all of that out. Don't worry about a thing. My friend, this is my Fullonica, my workshop, my laundry shop, right here in ancient Rome. And I am a Fullonica. It's not just a job, it's a craft, a skill developed through years of training and experience. It's more than just washing clothes. It's an art form. The first step in the process is the wringing. You hold the cloth firmly in your hands, letting gravity do most of the work as you pull it taut. Then with a quick twist and a snap, you release the excess water. The wringing requires its own technique, developed through years of experience. It's gentle, and the fabric retains too much moisture and soil. It's too aggressive, and the delicate fibers might break, or the carefully woven pattern might distort. Your hands have learned to gauge the precise pressure needed, to feel through your palms when the fabric has released all it will give. Now, the wrung toga goes into a large ceramic basin filled with fresh water for its first rinse. Here, you work it gently with your hands, feeling for any remaining grime, any spots that might need additional attention. The water grows gray with the dissolved remnants of Roman nightlife wine stains that tell stories of celebration. Food spills that speak of abundance, the general accumulated dust of a life lived in the world's busiest city. As the morning progresses, the Fullonica fills with steam rising from the warm rinse waters. The stone walls begin to sweat with condensation, and the air grows thick and humid. Your tunic clings to your back, damp with perspiration, and the ever-present moisture of your workplace. This is the atmosphere you breathe daily, year after year, warm, humid, scented with ammonia and the earthy smell of wet wool. But even in the steamy heat, you are keenly aware of the passage of time. For the Fullonica opens at dawn, and the customer is due back at noon to collect his or her freshly laundered garments. You have only a few hours to complete the process, so you work efficiently, changing the water frequently and making sure each garment gets the right amount of soap and the correct amount of time in the suds. After the final rinse, you gather the garments and begin the long process of squeezing out more water. The exact number of rinses and the length of time each garment spends in the suds will vary depending on the level of soiling. A senator's toga, for example, will require more care and attention than a tunic worn by a slave. With the excess water removed, the garments are ready for drying. But how does one dry a toga in the middle of a bustling city? Space is at a premium in Rome, and hanging out one's laundry is not an option. Instead, you carry the heavy, wet toga up narrow stairs to the roof, where wooden frames and rope lines have been strung in a careful pattern. It's designed to catch the maximum amount of sunlight and breeze. There, the toga is pinned to the ropes, becoming part of a colorful, ever-changing landscape of drying laundry. From up here, you can see the entire city spread out before you. A sprawling panorama of terracotta roofs, soaring marble buildings, and busy streets. You take a moment to appreciate the view, to breathe in the fresh air, and to reflect on the fact that you have played a small part in keeping the citizens of Rome clean and healthy. When the garments are dry, you bring them back down from the roof, fold them neatly, and lay them out to be picked up later. As the customer departs, you take a moment to wipe the sweat from your brow and to survey the Fullonica. It's a mess, really. The floors are probably filthy. Baskets are overflowing with dirty clothes. Suds are cold, and the day is hot. But you wouldn't trade this life for the world. For this is your passion, your craft, your way of life. You are a Fullonica in ancient Rome, and this is your story. Another busy day at the Fullonica has begun, and as the sun climbs higher in the sky, your work continues. You are not yet ready to return to the drying racks. First, you must tend to the new arrivals. The rooftop of the Fullonica offers a brief respite from the humid atmosphere below. Here you can see across the terracotta tiles of neighboring buildings, catch glimpses of the broader city beyond your daily world. The morning sun, now fully risen, promises good drying weather, a crucial element in the success of your work. Hanging the toga requires care and skill. The wet wool is heavy and prone to stretching, so you must support its weight while arranging it to dry evenly. Fold marks or uneven drying can create permanent creases that will displease the customer. You spread the garment across several lines, ensuring that air can circulate around all parts of the fabric. Other workers are engaged in similar tasks, creating a forest of drying laundry that transforms the rooftop into a canvas of white and cream-colored fabric fluttering in the morning breeze. The sight is almost peaceful, these clean garments dancing in the wind, catching and reflecting the golden light of the Roman sun. But your work is far from finished. While some garments dry, others require additional attention. You return to the ground floor, where new customers have begun to arrive with their soiled clothing. A successful Fullonica owner must balance multiple jobs at once. Greet each customer warmly, engaging them in conversation as you take in their laundry. The merchant whose tunic is stained with olive oil from his breakfast this morning, the scribe whose toga bears ink stains from his morning's work, the housewife whose children's tunics are marked with the evidence of play and exploration, receive each garment with a practiced eye, mentally cataloging the types of stains, the fabric quality, the level of care that will be required. Some items need only a basic wash and rinse. Others will require special attention wine stains that must be treated with specific techniques. Oil marks that need careful coaxing with fuller's earth, or the occasional garment so soiled that it will test every skill you possess. You set aside the most delicate garments, those that need special care. For later in the day, when you have more time and focus on the first customer's tunic, you are familiar with the process by heart, but you always allow room for surprises. After all, it's the unexpected challenges that can make a Fullonica owner truly successful. Each garment holds a story, and you are not just a launderer, but a silent observer of the lives that unfold within the walls of your shop. You step over the threshold of your Follonica and are immediately enveloped in the sights, sounds, and smells of your daily life in ancient Rome. The rhythmic clang of your hammer against the marble basin echoes through the narrow space, mingling with the murmur of the nearby forum. Sunlight streams in through the open front, illuminating motes dancing in the air and casting long shadows from the drying racks that line the walls. On one rack, a white toga billows in the non-existent breeze, rustling like the lapping of water against a ship's hull. Beneath it, a deep red cloak, still damp, drapes like a rich tapestry. The pungent aroma of laurel and cedar wood from the drying herbs hangs heavy in the air, mingling with the earthy scent of the fuller's earth you use in your trade. The floor, a mosaic of worn stone, is scattered with tools of your craft, each bearing silent witness to the countless garments you've cleaned. Your eye, honed by years of experience, takes in the state of each garment, assessing the damage done, the fabric, and the best course of action. You run a calloused thumb along a wine-stained fold, already envisioning the steps to restore this fine white tunic to its former glory. The bell above your door chimes, announcing the arrival of another customer seeking your expertise. With a warm smile, you turn from your work, ready to greet the latest in a long line of Romans who have entrusted you with their most precious garments. Each garment you encounter tells a silent story, whispering tales of feasts, political debates, gladiator games, or quiet evenings at home. You're not just a washer and dyer, but a keeper of sorts, preserving not just fabric, but memories, secrets, and reputations. As you work, you find satisfaction in more than just the restoration of soiled clothes. You take pride in the small economy you've built, the community you've formed, the trust that binds you to the citizens of Rome. In the heart of the bustling city, your Follonica stands as a sanctuary, a place where dirt and grime are washed away, replaced by the fresh scent of clean linen and the quiet dignity of well-tended garments. And you, the full moon maker, stand at the center of it all, a humble craftsman, an attentive listener, and a silent observer of the eternal city. As the heat of the Roman summer begins to wane, you feel the change in the air. The midday sun no longer beats down with oppressive heat, but instead bathes the city in a softer, gentler light. The rush of the full moon rush has subsided, replaced by a slower, more deliberate pace that mirrors the rhythm of the late afternoon. Inside your shop, the air is thick with the scent of drying wool and linen, mingled with the sweet aroma of the herbs you use to color your dyes. Outside, the sound of sandals on stone and the murmur of conversation drift in through the open doorway, carrying with them the everyday stories of Roman life. You pause in your work, allowing yourself a moment of quiet contemplation. Your hands, rough and strong from years of toil, rest momentarily on the edge of a drying rack. Your gaze drifts to the jars of dye, each a vibrant splash of color against the muted backdrop of the stone wall. It's in these moments of quiet that you reflect on the life you've built here, the full moon. A business that's more than just a means of making an honest living. It's a cornerstone of your community, a place where the social elite rubs shoulders with merchants, artisans, and even the occasional senator. Each customer who steps through your door brings with them not just soiled garments, but a piece of their story, their worries, their triumphs, and their daily struggles. You listen patiently, offering words of comfort or sharing in their joy, all while knowing that in a few hours' time, their clothes will be returned to them, fresh, clean, and ready to face whatever the next day might bring. You're not just a full moon maker, you're a confidant, a healer of sorts, mending not just fabrics, but the burdens of everyday life. With the setting sun, you know it's time to close up shop. The day's work is done, and the quiet of the evening settles over the city like a soft blanket. You begin the ritual of closing, the sound of your tools setting down a gentle metronome marking the end of another day. The drying racks are shrouded in the blue dusk, their outlines stark against the fading light. The scent of drying herbs mingles with the approaching darkness, creating a heady aroma that speaks of a day well spent. As the last customer departs, you step out into the cool evening air, leaving behind the bustle of the day. The streets of Rome are alive with the sounds of evening, the laughter of families returning home, the murmur of vendors, and the distant strum of a lyre. You join the flow of humanity, moving towards your own home and hearth, where the warmth of family awaits. The patina of age has given your hands a leathery texture, the kind that speaks of years spent honing a craft, not just a job. Every crease and line etched on your palms tells a silent story. It's testament to the countless garments you've stored and the countless tales you've heard while running your fullonica. Tonight, though, the weight of your tools feels lighter, the aches in your back strangely soothed. You stop to admire the reflection of the dying sun in the Tiber, its fiery hues painting the river in shades of molten gold and crimson. You think of the day just past, of the faces that lined up outside your shop, of the stories whispered between the folds of their garments. The full moon is more than just a business for you. It's a lifeline to the heart of Rome, connecting you to the city's pulse through the very clothes that adorn its people. My other videos are much longer form, but this one is just going to be me reacting to some different historical first-person perspectives. So if you like it, great, but don't expect too much from it. Also, I'm going to try something new at the end. If you have any feedback, that would be much appreciated. The middle hours of the day bring their own rhythm. With several loads in various stages of the cleaning process, you move between tasks with the fluid efficiency of long practice. Here, checking the progress of garments in the treading vats. There, beginning the rinse cycle for a batch that has completed its initial cleaning. Across the room, preparing a special treatment for a particularly stubborn stain. Your hands are never completely dry. The constant contact with water and cleaning solutions has left them permanently softened and slightly wrinkled. The skin pale and somewhat tender. UV learned to work through the minor cuts and scrapes that come from handling rough fabrics and working around stone edges. These small injuries are simply part of the profession, barely worth noting. The conversations with your fellow workers continue throughout the day, providing a social rhythm that makes the repetitive work more bearable. You discuss technique, how Lucius discovered that a particular type of stain responds better to warm water rather than cold. How Julia developed a method for treating silk that minimizes damage to the delicate fibers. These are the innovations of practical necessity, developed through trial and observation, rather than formal study. You also share observations about your customers. The toga that arrives pristinely clean except for a single wine stain. Tells. One story, perhaps a careful person who suffered one moment of clumsiness. The tunic that arrives comprehensively soiled tells another, possibly someone who works with their hands. Ow. Or someone whose circumstances don't allow for frequent washing. As afternoon approaches, your attention turns to the garments that have been drying on the roof. The Roman sun has done its work well. Most items are nearly dry, their fibers stiff with cleanliness. But dried laundry is only the beginning of the final phase of your work. Roman standards of appearance demand more than mere cleanliness. They require perfection of presentation. This passage is from a book that was published in 2018 called Laundry Work in Ancient Rome, and the entire book is written in this first-person plural perspective, which is really interesting. It's actually an example of what's called a collective first person, which includes the author as well as other people. In this case, it's specifically about a group of ancient Roman female laundry workers. I'm a little bit shocked that I have unseen more videos or other reactions to this book, because it's pretty fascinating. This book was written by an archaeologist named Rebecca B. Pope. She spent years researching laundry facilities all over Italy. It's mostly in Rome itself. And she used those archaeological findings combined with various literary sources to reconstruct what it might have been like to work as a laundry worker in ancient Rome. And so this book is both a scholarly analysis of the topic as well as a creative reconstruction of what daily life as a laundry worker looked like. So yeah, definitely check out the book if you're interested. While it's not set in Greece, I think this scene captures a lot of the same feelings that I tried to portray in my video about washing clothes in the Mediterranean. For example, when it talks about the water softening your hands, that was something that happened to me when I washed clothes in cold water. All that scrubbing really worked my hands over. And then even though you get used to it and it doesn't really bother you, you can still feel the effects in your hands. Even after you're done doing the laundry, I also loved the line about how the conversations with fellow workers made the repetitive work more bearable. Again, that's something I experienced when washing clothes in Greece. And so it's really cool to see that this book captured that feeling as well. Yeah, overall, this is just a really well-written piece. And again, I'm shocked that more people aren't talking about it. Let me know if you've ever heard of this book before, especially if you've read it and if you enjoyed it. Again, I'm considering writing a full video about it, but I'm not sure yet. So let me know if you want to see that. Now for this last section of the video, I want to talk about how to incorporate these kinds of historical texts into your own historical fiction, because I think they're such a rich source of inspiration, but most people don't really know how to use them properly. I'm going to be sharing a few tips that I've picked up myself from reading historical, first-person perspectives and incorporating them into my own writing. But first I wanted to share a fun project that will help you do exactly that. So if you write historical fiction, or you're interested in learning how to write historical fiction, I highly recommend checking out this amazing book called Writing Historical Fiction. The book is jam-packed with really helpful information. But one thing that I found particularly useful were the sample scenes that are sprinkled throughout the book. What makes these scenes so useful is that each one is accompanied by a detailed analysis explaining why certain choices were made and how those choices contribute to the overall story. So essentially, you get to see the thought process behind creating a historically accurate and compelling scene. Definitely check out the book if you're interested. And now, on to the tips. Okay, so the first tip is about finding the right source. If you want to use historical first-person perspectives to inspire your own writing, it's important to find a source that speaks to you personally. It could be something as simple as a diary entry or a letter, or it could be something more formal like an oral history or an interview. Whatever you choose, make sure that it's something that you connect with on an emotional level. For example, if you're writing a story about a warrior, you might want to find a first-hand account of battle from someone who fought in that war. Or if you're writing a romance, you might want to look for a love letter or a diary entry from someone who lived during that time period. The next tip is to read widely within that source. Once you find a source that you like, it's important to read it widely so that you can get a sense of the range of experiences that people had during that time period. This will help you avoid writing a narrow or one-sided story. For example, if you're using a collection of letters to inform your writing, be sure to read all of the letters, not just the ones that support your thesis or your personal experience. You should also try to find letters from people of different social classes, genders, and races. By reading widely, you'll be able to get a more complete picture of what life was like during that time period. And you'll be able to write a more nuanced and believable story. The third tip is to focus on the details. When reading a first-person historical source, it's important to pay attention to the details that the author includes. These details can provide you with valuable insights into the setting, the characters, and the plot of your story. For example, if the author mentions a character's clothing, you can use that detail to inform your character's appearance or to provide clues about their social status. Or if the author describes a particular setting in vivid detail, you can use that description to create a realistic and immersive world for your readers. By paying attention to the details in historical first-person accounts, you will be able to write a story that feels authentic and true to the time period that you're rewriting about. So those are 3 tips for using historical first-person perspectives to inspire your own historical fiction. I hope they're helpful, and I encourage you to try them out in your own writing. Again, I really think that incorporating these kinds of sources can help you write a richer, more nuanced, and more compelling stories. The fires are dying down now. The furnaces are cooling after a day of baking heat, their embers glowing like hot coals in the gathering dusk. A chill wind is starting to stir outside the Fullonica, rustling the leaves of the nearby trees and whipping them into miniature whirlwinds across the paving stones. I pull my toga tighter about me and watch the sky above the distant hills turn from the deep blue of midday to the fiery hues of sunset. The rush of the morning is over. The day's work is done. And as the shadows grow longer, I can hear the familiar sounds of home returning to the streets. This is the time I most love working in the Fullonica. Not the early hours when the first light brings customers and the fires need tending, or the height of the day when sweat stings the eyes and the heat is almost unbearable. It is now, as the day draws toward evening, that the true character of the Fullinarius reveals itself. The frantic activity of the morning gives way to the careful finishing work of the afternoon. When the rush is over and each garment is complete, I take great care in presenting them to my customers, making sure that each one is perfect, making sure that they understand the value of what they wear, making sure that I have done my part to make Rome run smoothly. Around me, slaves hurry from the dying fires to the tubs filled with clean water, plunging their cloths and shirts and togas into the fresh water and wringing them out ready for the next customer. The air is still humid and warm, and the urgency of the midday heat lingers. But the fire in the furnace has gone out, and the oppressive pressure is eased. My back straightens, my shoulders relax, and I straighten out a finished toga on the table before me. With the skill born of a decade of practice, I smooth out the folds, stretching out the fabric so that every inch is displayed to its best advantage. I think of Marcus, the bald and short young man who brought this very toga to me this morning. He was preparing, he said, to present an offering at the Temple of Apollo. He'd been nervous, twisting his hands together as he explained his errand to me, his face creased with worry. The toga had been his father's, and it was important to him that it looked right. I had reassured him then, as I reassured all my customers, telling them that their garments were in good hands and would be returned to them in perfect condition. That is our Fullenarius' oath, that we return what we receive, only better, cleaner, and fresher. We do not merely make dirty clothes clean, we restore them to their former glory. And look here, a small stain yet remains, a splash of wine where Marcus spilled some carelessly as he celebrated last night's triumph. It is barely visible, but to present it to Apollo's temple with such a flaw would be unthinkable. I dampen my cloth with the vinegar solution and press gently, the way you must press a kiss on the cheek of a sleeping child, light and tender. Then, slowly, patiently, I apply the fuller's earth. It is magic, this stuff. The earth, which smells faintly of sulfur, is ground into a powder by my slave, who sifts it through a linen cloth to remove the lumps. Applied to the right garment, it will draw out any stain, even those stubborn reddish-purple ones left by strong wine or the juice of ripe figs. It is a long process, though this application and removal of the earth. First it must soak into the cloth and bind with the stain. Then it must dry before it can be brushed away. Time, more than anything else, is our Fullenarius' greatest ally. While the earth works its magic, I turn to the next task. For many garments, the work is already done, but there are always a few that require a little extra care. A few that need their color brightened or their weave coaxed back into shape. And these are my favorite tasks, for they allow me to show off the skills I have developed over the years, the skills that set me apart from my fellow Fullenaries, and allow me to charge Marcus Aurelius prices for my work. With a piece of wool so fine it is almost translucent, I wet it under the pump and smooth it out on the board, removing creases and smoothing out the grain. To do this well, you need both strength and delicacy, enough force to pull the fibers taut and level, but gentle enough not to damage them. It is easy to ruin a piece of cloth if you do not know what you are doing. Ask any merchant, how much do you think this toga would cost if I ruined it? Ruined it completely, charred it, tore it, defecated on it, filled it with holes. How much would Marcus pay then? How much would any of my customers pay? Nothing. They would tear it up and cast it in the latrine, cursing me and demanding their money back. So I am careful. I work slowly and deliberately, taking my time until each piece of clothing looks better than when it came in. But even I cannot defy the laws of physics. I shake my head and smile ruefully as I examine a thick woolen cloak. There is a snag here, a hole worn into the cloth by years of use. I try to coax the thread back through the snag, but it is no use. It will need patching, and even my skill cannot hide this damage. But I can minimize it. Carefully, I pull the cloak tight around the loom, securing it in place. Now I pass the shuttle, a thin stick holding the patch through the hole, and start weaving. Moving quickly so that the new patch becomes invisible beneath the surface of the cloak. Patching is a skill unto itself. You must match the color and texture of the original cloth exactly, or the patch will be visible from a foot away. If you patch badly, you have defeated the whole purpose of patching. And sometimes, like with this cloak, the best you can hope for is to make the damage less noticeable. Still, it is far better than ruining the garment completely. I think of the Fullenarius in Pompeii who took a chance on a silk gown of great value. Must have been young and overconfident to take such a job on. He damaged the gown badly too, so badly that the lady owner sued him, and the courts ordered that he pay her back twice the value of the dress. Talk about a bad day. Fullenarius can earn a good living, but we must be careful in our work. Our customers trust us with things of great value, things that may not be valuable to us, but which are invaluable to them. The toga, for instance, represents so much more than just a piece of cloth wrapped around the body. It represents civic duty, social standing, political aspirations. Even the humblest toga is a symbol of Roman civilization, a signifier of the wearer's humanity. It is why I teach my slaves to respect the clothes we handle, dirty clothes come to us every day, smelly, stained, torn, soiled beyond recognition. And it is our job to restore them, to make them whole again, to make them presentable to the Roman world. It is a noble calling. Now, as the evening air grows cooler, I finish the last garment of the day and hold it up for my slaves to admire. They stand around me, faces dark with the grime of the day, but smiling proudly because they know that they have done good work today. As a team, we have made people look good. We have helped them keep the wheels of Rome turning smoothly. We have made a difference. And that is what being a fullenarius is all about. Now comes the final step. Fold the toga carefully, using techniques that prevent wrinkles and display the quality of my work, keeping it secure against the wind and ready to be picked up and worn without fuss. This toga was once filthy and stinking, fit only for the trash heap. And now it is brilliantly white, perfectly pressed, carrying the fresh scent of sunshine and sulfur. It is ready to be worn in the forum, ready to be offered to the gods. It is ready to play its part in the grand drama of Roman life. When Marcus comes to pick it up, I will hand it to him with a straight back and steady eyes, knowing that he will see in its pristine whiteness the value of his investment, the value of his father's gift. He will not see the dirt and grime of the workshops of Subora, nor the hard work of my slaves and myself. He will only see the end product, the reason for our labors, the reason for our toil, the reason for the existence of the Follonica. Will see order rising from chaos, civilization rising from filth. He will see Rome. My name is your name, and this is a history of Rome. Episode number 46. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe and leave a review. The reviews really help spread the word about this channel and bring more history lovers into the community. Thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. The clank of your hammer echoes in the nearly empty shop as you make one final adjustment to the sign hanging outside the Follonica. With a grunt, you step back to admire your handiwork. A simple hammered iron piece announcing to the world the services you provide. Your name, Marcus Didius, full anchor to the elite troops of Rome. A small detail, but an important one. You take pride in everything you do. It's late in the evening, the sun having set hours ago, leaving the sky above Rome awash in a sea of twinkling stars. The sound of crickets chirping fills the air, a soothing melody that lulls most of the city into slumber. But not you. For you, the day isn't over yet, not by a long shot. You begin the time-honored ritual of closing up shop, each step as familiar to you as the lines on your palm. The vats must be emptied and filled once more with fresh water for the morrow. The crucibles and ladles are scrubbed and set down, their task for the day complete. The furnaces are banked and ready to be coaxed back to life with a few well-placed bellows. The leather straps and iron tools hang neatly on their pegs, awaiting the next call to service. Every inch of your workshop is accounted for, every potential hazard secured, every surface swept clean except for one. That would be your hands. The work you do is both vital and visceral. To strip cloth of its filth and restore it to pristine condition requires a lot of scrubbing. And so it is that your hands, once the instruments of your trade, now sit pruned and pale in the flickering lamplight, a testament to ours immersed in hot suds and the grime of Rome's ceaseless activity. With your preparations complete, you leave the Follonica, pausing only to straighten your tunic and wipe the sweat from your brow. Above you, the moon climbs higher in the night sky, casting an ethereal glow over the ancient city. The sounds of the evening, the laughter of lovers, the murmur of evening prayers, the distant strains of a street performer's flute, all blend together in a rich tapestry of urban sounds. The familiar sight of the stone stairs leading to your room above the Follonica never fails to please. And as you climb the stairs, you feel the comforting weight of the day settling upon you like a well-worn cloak. Inside, the air is thick with the lingering dampness of the day's work, a testament to the steamy vats and dripping cloths that are an integral part of your trade. The scent is faint, but it's a fragrance you know intimately, the aroma of your labor, the smell of your life. Fatigue pulls at you, urging rest, but there's a quiet satisfaction that comes from a day's work well done. The rhythmic routine of your trade is a source of comfort, steady beat that anchors you in the bustling chaos of Rome. In this moment of quiet, the city's ceaseless hum fading to a distant roar, you are content. You are Marcus Didius, full inker to the elite troops of Rome. And as the night deepens and the stars climb higher, you drift to sleep with the comforting sounds of the city serenading you. A lullaby that speaks of life, activity, and purpose. Tomorrow will bring new stains, new challenges, new opportunities to practice the ancient alchemy of turning the soiled into the spotless. But tonight you rest.
As the sun climbed higher in the sky, pushing back the shadows of night and illuminating the bustling activity of the Roman Forum. Pliny the Elder continued his methodical work. His sharp gaze was trained not on the grandeur of the Senate House or the imposing columns of the Temple of Saturn, but on the humbler details of daily life playing out around him. To the casual observer, these scenes might have seemed trivial, even tedious, but to Pliny, they were a rich source of insight into the inner workings of the city. He noted the meticulous routines of the fullones as they sorted through the day's laundry, each garment a silent story of its owner's life. He observed the vendors hawking their wares, listening intently to their pitches and committing every detail to memory. These weren't just men and women peddling goods. They were, in Pliny's view, living embodiments of the economic engine that drove Rome. The discarded scraps of fabric, the broken tools, the piles of freshly washed garments, all held within them valuable clues about the lives of the Romans. And Pliny, the tireless excavator of knowledge, was determined to unearth them. His mind worked like a trap, catching and holding every fragment of information until it could be carefully examined and categorized. A stained piece of linen, for instance, might lead him to ponder the habits of the ancient Romans, the nature of the dyes they used, and even the ingredients of their wines. Such an unassuming artifact could become a portal into an entire world. And Pliny was skilled at stepping through those portals without losing sight of the bigger picture. His ambition was nothing less than a comprehensive understanding of the Roman world, and he pursued it with an energy that knew no bounds. Just as the fullones took pride in their craft, Pliny took pride in his research, spending hours poring over texts, cross-referencing accounts, and tracking down obscure facts. His library was a monument to this dedication, containing not just a vast collection of scrolls and tablets, but also the tools he used to study them. Carefully labeled jars and boxes filled with everything from small tools to dried plants. Each item had its place in Pliny's systematized world, just as the fullones kept their workshop in order to maximize efficiency. He understood that knowledge, like a well-washed garment, needed to be neatly organized to be truly useful. In the midst of his research, Pliny would often pause to admire the order he had created around him, finding satisfaction in the arrangement of his books and instruments, much as a fulone might take a quiet moment to appreciate the rows of freshly laundered clothes. For Pliny, this attention to detail was more than a matter of personal taste. It was a reflection of his deep respect for the world he was trying to understand. Just as the fullones respected the delicate nature of the fabrics they worked with, Pliny respected the complexity and fragility of human knowledge. He understood that each scrap of information, no matter how seemingly insignificant, could contribute to a greater understanding of the world. And he approached each piece of evidence with the care and precision of a master craftsman. Yet, Pliny's respect for knowledge did not make him blind to its limitations. Like a fulone examining a stubborn stain, he was willing to confront the messy, unpredictable nature of the world. He knew that knowledge was not a static collection of facts, but a constantly evolving process, and he embraced this uncertainty, seeing it as a source of growth and understanding rather than a threat to his carefully constructed world. This was perhaps nowhere more evident than in his approach to dealing with conflicting accounts or incomplete evidence. When faced with such ambiguity, instead of simply dismissing the information as useless, Pliny would analyze the discrepancies, seeking to understand the different perspectives or the limitations of the available sources. In doing so, he turned what might have been seen as a flaw in his research into a strength, using the gaps and inconsistencies to refine his understanding of the subject at hand. This approach was not only intellectually rigorous, but also deeply humane. By refusing to ignore or dismiss conflicting accounts, Pliny demonstrated a respect for the complexity of human experience and an openness to multiple perspectives. He understood that truth, like a garment, could be multifaceted and that a single perspective could never capture its full complexity. This was a lesson he learned not just from his research, but from the very nature of the work done by the who themselves were products of a complex web of social, economic, and cultural forces. By meticulously observing and recording the details of their trade, Pliny was able to create a more complete and nuanced picture of Roman life, one that celebrated the richness and variety of human experience. Yet, even as Pliny delved deeper into the intricacies of Roman life, his gaze never strayed too far from the practical concerns of the people he was studying. He was not content to simply catalog the details of daily life. He wanted to understand the underlying forces that shaped it, the economic, social, and environmental factors that influenced the work of the fullones and the lives of the Romans. In doing so, he laid the groundwork for a new way of understanding the ancient world, one that emphasized not just the grandeur of the empire, but the everyday realities of those who lived within it. Meanwhile, deep in the heart of the Roman Empire, far from the bustling streets and teeming marketplaces of the capital, Pliny the Younger, the nephew of Pliny the Elder, was pursuing a similar path of intellectual discovery. Although separated by time and circumstance, the two Plinies shared a profound respect for knowledge and a tireless commitment to its pursuit. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the Roman Forum, Pliny the Younger found himself drawn to the same sights and sounds that had captivated his uncle so many years before. The familiar calls of vendors, the murmur of conversation, and the gentle lapping of water from the nearby Trevifa created a symphony of urban life that resonated deeply with him. But it was the humble fullaniki, the workshops where the fullones plied their trade, that held a particular fascination for him. In the flickering lamplight, Pliny observed the rhythmic movements of the fullones as they sorted, washed, and mended the garments entrusted to their care. Each fold, each press, each rinse was a testament to the quiet dignity of labor that undergirded Roman life. These were not just skilled craftsmen, they were essential contributors to the health and well-being of the city, ensuring that its citizens could go about their daily lives free from the burden of soiled clothing. Pliny recognized that these unassuming individuals were, in fact, playing a vital role in maintaining the fabric of Roman society. Much like the threads that the fullones used to repair damaged garments, and just as the fullones took pride in their craft, Pliny took pride in his observations, knowing that he was capturing not just the work of these skilled individuals, but the essence of a civilization. And with that, we conclude our journey through the bustling world of the Roman. But our exploration of ancient trades and technologies is far from over. Join us next time as we uncover another vital aspect of daily life in the ancient world. And if you're eager to continue exploring the fascinating world of ancient trades and technologies, be sure to subscribe to our channel. With each passing day, we bring you closer to the heart of the ancient world, revealing the ingenuity, innovation, and sheer human spirit that made civilizations like Rome thrive. Until then, keep an eye out for the subtle threads of history that connect us to the past. And remember that sometimes the greatest discoveries are when we take the time to truly see the world around us.
Here in the heart of ancient Rome, as the sun begins its slow climb over the Palatine Hill, a new day unfolds, full of promise and potential. For the men who have toiled all night long in the smelly business of cleaning soiled garments, the rising sun brings little more than the hope of a cool evening breeze and a full money box. Their work, essential yet often overlooked, is a silent testament to the realities of daily life in an empire seemingly built on grandeur and glory. But there is one man in this sprawling city who neither ignores nor overlooks them. As the first rays of sunlight touch the marble columns lining the Forum, awakening the slumbering city, he stirs in his elegant apartment overlooking the bustling square. The apartment is part of his family's recently acquired country estate, purchased when his uncle, the celebrated Roman philosopher Pliny the Younger, was governor of Bithynia. It is here that our restless observer begins his day. sustained by the fragrant steam rising from a fresh pot of morning coffee, a luxury brought to Rome from Ethiopia by traders traversing the vast reaches of the empire. He dips his bread in the rich, dark brew, savoring the moment before plunging into the day's work. This is Gaius Plinius Secundus, better known as Pliny the Elder. And like the full ones who tend their vats of soapy water just beyond hearing, Pliny is preparing himself for the day's labor. Pliny's mind is a universe unto itself, a swirling nebula of ideas, observations, and questions. He thinks of the common people of Rome, those who go about their daily lives oblivious to the grand sweep of history, and wonders if they too have ever paused to consider the mysteries of stain removal. Perhaps, he muses, there are secrets hidden within these humble workshops that could revolutionize the art of cleaning. And so it is that Pliny, armed with his characteristic blend of curiosity and rigor, sets out to explore the uncharted territories of everyday life in the Roman Empire. As Pliny makes his way through the labyrinthine streets of Rome, he is a man on a mission. His keen eyes miss nothing, observing the play of light and shadow on the weathered faces of the buildings, the rhythmic clang of a blacksmith's hammer from a nearby workshop, the sweet calls of birds nesting in the forum's ancient trees. Each detail is a data point in his grand design to understand and record the natural world. Pliny's journey takes him past merchants hawking their wares, street vendors offering refreshments, and the occasional beggar seeking alms. Yet his gaze is not simply on the people or the products they peddle. He sees the very essence of Roman life playing out before him and commits every nuance to memory. Upon reaching the Forum, he is greeted by a familiar sight. The Forum, with its towering temples and bustling crowds, is the heart and soul of Roman civic life. For Pliny, the true interest lies not in the imposing structures, but in the everyday transactions that fill the space between them. A senator haggling over the price of a slave, a merchant displaying his wares, a group of friends discussing the latest news. These are the threads that make up the fabric of Roman existence. Pliny walks among them, a scholar in search of wisdom, understanding that the true nature of any society lies not in its monuments, but in the lives of its citizens. As Pliny continues his exploration of the Forum, his gaze falls upon a group of men gathered around a fountain, engaged in a heated discussion. Intrigued, he joins them and listens intently as they debate the merits of various cleaning agents. Their conversation reveals the myriad methods employed by Romans to keep their clothes clean and their bodies fresh. Some swear by the power of urine, while others prefer the gentler touch of vinegar or baking soda. There are those who tout the benefits of olive oil and even crushed flowers for removing stubborn stains. Pliny absorbs it all, recognizing that even in matters of personal hygiene, there is much to learn and record. He questions their techniques, probing for details, and takes notes on the ingredients and methods for future reference. For Pliny, such encounters are not merely social pleasantries. They are opportunities to gather information that will form the basis of his magnum opus, the natural history. In this sprawling work, he aims to document every aspect of the known world, and such mundane matters are as integral to his project as the stars in the sky or the minerals in the earth. To Pliny, there are no insignificant details. Everything, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, contributes to the grand tapestry of human knowledge. As the morning progresses, Pliny's path takes him to the bustling marketplace, where the air is thick with the aromas of spices, fresh produce, and exotic meats. Here, amid the vibrant displays of merchandise, he finds yet another angle of observation. The methods by which the merchants keep their goods fresh and their stalls inviting reveal much about Roman ingenuity and resourcefulness. Some use earthenware to store perishable items, while others employ woven baskets or wooden crates. There are even specialized tools and techniques for weighing and measuring ingredients to ensure fairness in the marketplace. Pliny watches and listens, gathering information and reflecting on the sophistication required to sustain a thriving market economy. But Pliny is not just an observer. He is also a participant in this bustling marketplace. When he encounters a seller of fish, Pliny inquires about the methods used to keep the fish fresh during transport. He asks questions about the types of containers used and the techniques employed to maintain their quality. The seller, eager to impress such an obviously learned customer, launches into a detailed explanation of his trade. He describes the different types of earthenware used for various fish, the techniques for packing ice, and the importance of timing and delivery. Pliny listens intently, occasionally interjecting with a question or a comment. The exchange is not just a transaction, but a lesson in Roman commerce. And as the midday sun climbs higher in the sky, Pliny's thoughts turn to the practicality of these ancient Roman inventions. He reflects on the durability and efficiency of the earthenware, the cleverness of the fish scales, and the ingenuity of the other tools he has seen in action. He recognizes that these everyday objects are not just functional, but represent a sophisticated understanding of the natural world and human needs. Pliny the Elder may have been born into privilege, but his mind was never trapped by it. While others saw dirt and grime, he saw the makings of a cleaner world. And it was this perspective, this willingness to find wonder in the mundane, that allowed him to create a world of knowledge unlike any that came before it. As the morning progresses, Pliny's path leads him to a local bathhouse. Here, amidst the steam and the scent of soap, he witnesses another facet of Roman life, the communal aspect of cleanliness. The bathhouse is not just a place for personal hygiene, but a social hub where people from all walks of life come together to relax and socialize. He observes the various tools used for scraping, scrubbing, and massaging, noting their design and function. Pliny pays particular attention to the techniques employed by the bath attendants, the materials used in the various scrubs, and the rituals surrounding the communal dipping pools. Every detail is noted, every question asked, for Pliny is ever the student eager to learn and record. It is here in the bathhouse, amidst the shared experience of cleansing and the casual conversations of everyday Romans, that Pliny's project takes on a deeper meaning. He is not just documenting the physical world, but capturing the essence of Roman culture, the habits, customs, and values that make this civilization unique. To Pliny, cleanliness is not merely a physical necessity, but a reflection of Roman ideals of order, refinement, and self-improvement. As the day heats up, Pliny's thoughts turn to the practicalities of these ancient Roman baths. He marvels at the heating systems that maintain the perfect temperature of the water, the ingenious ways in which the steam is generated, and the architectural design that allows for both communal and private bathing areas. He observes the social dynamics of the bathhouse, the interactions between patrons and attendants, the language used, and the stories shared. Each observation adds another layer to his understanding of Roman life. The rest of Pliny's day is a continuation of this meticulous exploration. He may visit a friend's villa, observing the methods used to keep the gardens free of pests and the house free of dust. He might attend a public event, noting the cleanliness of the spectators and the efforts made to maintain order in crowded spaces. Or he could simply stroll through the city, stopping to chat with tradespeople and engaging in conversations that lead to new discoveries. As the sun begins its slow descent, casting long shadows across Rome, Pliny's mind is a whirlwind of ideas. He has walked the bustling streets, observed the habits of everyday Romans, marveled at the ingenuity of their tools and customs. From the full ones to the merchants to the bathhouse attendants, each person he encountered has contributed to his understanding of this vast and intricate civilization. Pliny sits down to write, his quill scratching across the papyrus, recording, categorizing, and connecting the myriad details of Roman life. His work is a testament to the power of observation, to the importance of understanding the everyday world, and the beauty of knowledge for its own sake. So as the last rays of sunlight touch the Tiber River, painting it in hues of gold and crimson, Pliny's work continues. In the quiet of his study, he is creating a world of knowledge that will stand the test of time. A world where the grandeur of the empire is balanced by the simple, yet essential details of everyday life. His mind, a vast universe of ideas, is a tribute to the endless curiosity that drives humanity forward. One observation, one question, one answer at a time. The ancient Romans were masters of hygiene, famous for their public baths and sophisticated plumbing systems. Yet in recent years, scholars have challenged this image, suggesting that cleanliness might have been overrated in the ancient world. They point to the lack of soap in Roman society and the reuse of urine for cleaning, arguing that these practices indicate a lack of concern for personal hygiene. Such ideas, though intriguing, overlook the complexity of Roman attitudes towards cleanliness and the nuances of their daily practices. In reality, the Romans' approach to hygiene was a nuanced practice shaped by social norms, cultural beliefs, and a deep understanding of human physiology. To truly appreciate their perspective, you must move beyond sweeping judgments and delve into the rich tapestry of their daily lives, examining not just what they did, but why they did it. Imagine a bustling Roman laundry, the air thick with the scent of stale urine and the rhythmic sloshing of water as clothes are pressed in giant vats. In this scene, there's a natural history waiting to be discovered, if one only knows where to look. Take, for instance, the urine-treated water, a common ingredient in Roman laundries. Instead of seeing merely a disgusting or even bizarre practice, consider the patience required for such work. Where others saw simply a laundry worker treading clothes in a vat of urine-treated water, Pliny saw a complex chemical process worthy of careful analysis. He would have noted the specific proportions of urine to water, the types of fuller's earth preferred for different fabrics, the seasonal variations in technique that responded to changes in temperature and humidity. His notebooks filled with details that seemed trivial to his contemporaries, but would prove invaluable to future generations. Seeking to understand how Romans actually lived, this dedication to recording the ordinary extended far beyond the realm of laundry work. For Pliny the Younger, the great Roman author, life was an endless source of wonder and discovery, even in the most mundane tasks. While many of his aristocratic contemporaries saw value only in the grand spectacles and exotic luxuries of Roman life, Pliny had eyes for the everyday practices that made up the fabric of Roman society. He meticulously observed and recorded the subtle details of daily existence, from the methods used to clean clothes to the ingredients in perfumes, from the rituals of bathing to the preparation of food. Pliny's great work, The Natural History, represents perhaps the most comprehensive attempt ever made by a single person to catalog all human knowledge. In its 37 volumes, he covered everything from astronomy to zoology, from agriculture to medicine, from geography to the arts. But what makes his work particularly remarkable is his consistent attention to practical details, not just what people thought they knew, but what they actually did. This focus on practical knowledge was revolutionary for its time. It marked a shift away from the purely theoretical and philosophical discussions that dominated much of classical scholarship. By recording the actual practices and methods used by people in their daily lives, Pliny was able to create a detailed and multifaceted picture of Roman culture that was both comprehensive and deeply insightful. This wasn't merely an academic exercise for Pliny. It was a way of understanding and appreciating the richness and complexity of the world around him. Through his meticulous observations, he captured not only the techniques and tools used in various trades and practices, but also the social customs, cultural beliefs, and even the aesthetics of everyday life in ancient Rome. To see what I mean, let's take a closer look at Pliny's work on perfumes and cosmetics. The wealthy Romans, known for their love of luxury, often turned to exotic ingredients to enhance their beauty routines. However, Pliny didn't limit his study to these elite practices. He also investigated the beauty practices of ordinary Romans, offering a balanced and inclusive perspective on hygiene and grooming. For instance, he documented how women of different social classes prepared their skin using various ointments, and how they mixed scents to achieve particular effects. Plinius' work reveals that the use of perfume and cosmetics was solely a luxury reserved for the rich, but was a common practice across all levels of Roman society. Furthermore, he noted the different techniques employed for different seasons and occasions, showcasing the adaptability and practicality of Roman beauty practices. Pliny's observations extended to the ingredients used in perfumes, too. While he discussed the allure of exotic fragrances imported from distant lands like Arabia, he also paid attention to locally sourced scents. By examining the diverse range of ingredients used in Roman perfumes, Pliny offered a nuanced understanding of the trade-offs between cost, availability, and desired effect that influenced the choices of ancient Romans. One example of Pliny's attention to detail can be seen in his discussion of a popular Roman cosmetic called white lead. This substance, highly prized for its ability to brighten the complexion, was commonly used by women of all social classes. Pliny didn't just mention its use, however. He delved into the process of preparing white lead, noting the techniques and tools used to ensure the highest quality product. He also discussed the health implications of its use, demonstrating his concern for the well-being of those who use these cosmetics. Beyond cosmetics, Pliny's observations on Roman bathing habits reveal the same meticulous attention to social nuance. Bathing in Roman society wasn't just a personal hygiene practice, but a significant social activity. The great public baths, known as balnea, were central to Roman urban life, providing not just a place for cleansing, but also a hub for socializing and community building. Pliny recognized the importance of bathing in Roman culture, and he meticulously recorded every aspect of this practice. He described the architecture and design of the public baths, noting the different rooms and facilities available and their specific uses. For instance, he detailed the sequence of rooms in a typical bath complex from the frigidarium, where one would start with a plunge in cold water to the tepidarium with its warm temperature, and finally to the caldarium, where patrons enjoyed the soothing heat of hot water. Pliny also understood that bathing wasn't just a physical activity, but a deeply social one. He observed the subtle protocols that governed bathing habits, such as the preferred hours for bathing, which varied according to social class, and the appropriate behavior in each area of the baths. These insights offer a fascinating glimpse into the social dynamics of Roman society, revealing how everyday activities like bathing were shaped by social norms and hierarchies. Despite the wealth of information Pliny provides about the nuts and bolts of Roman life, some modern readers still find themselves yearning for a more critical or analytical approach. They might wish that Pliny had spent less time describing, say, the precise method of cleaning clothes, and more time discussing the underlying social or economic structures that influence such practices. However, it's precisely this comprehensive and multifaceted approach that makes Pliny's work so valuable. By recording the practices and customs of Roman daily life, Pliny provided an invaluable resource for understanding the complexities of Roman society. His meticulous observations allow us to piece together not just how Romans lived, but why they lived in that way. It was Pliny's belief that knowledge of the practical world was not just useful, but essential to a complete understanding of human life. For him, the everyday practices of Roman society were not mundane, but rather a rich tapestry of human ingenuity, social custom, and cultural expression. His work serves as a reminder that true understanding comes not from sweeping generalizations, but from a deep appreciation of the nuances of daily life in all its messy, complicated glory. In conclusion, while some might view Pliny as detailed accounts of everyday life in ancient Rome as overly descriptive or lacking in theoretical depth, his work stands as a testament to the richness and complexity of Roman culture. Pliny's attention to practical details, his commitment to recording the everyday practices of Roman society, and his belief in the inherent value of practical knowledge set him apart as a scholar and offer a unique window into the world of the ancient Romans. Rather than seeing his work as a mere description of daily life, we can appreciate it as a nuanced exploration of Roman culture, customs, and society. By understanding the intricacies of Roman life, as Pliny saw it, we gain a deeper appreciation for the ingenuity, resourcefulness, and sophistication of Roman civilization, and the richness of daily existence in the heart of the Roman Empire. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing and joining our community of over 60,000 people who love to learn about history. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep seeking answers, and keep exploring the past. Because history is not just about dates and battles. It's about understanding the messy, complicated, beautiful story of humanity. The Roman Emperor Titus once asked Pliny the Younger how he managed to make friends so easily. Pliny replied that it was simply a matter of being interested in people. That might sound like a simple answer, but in reality it took a lot of effort to be systematically curious about everyone. And it's likely that Pliny's ease in making friends was more a product of his active effort than a natural talent. But this systematic curiosity led Pliny to develop relationships with people from all walks of life, where other members of the elite might interact only with their social equals. Pliny sought out conversations with craftsmen, farmers, merchants, and laborers. He understood that each profession possessed specialized knowledge that could not be found in any scroll or learned from any teacher. We can get a glimpse of one such conversation between Pliny and a professional launderer, or fullones, in the pages of his letters. In Book 7, Letter 23, Pliny writes to his friend Pompaninus about a recent conversation with a former slave-turned-successful businessman. The letter begins with some gossip. Pliny tells Pompaninus that the former emperor's freedman, whom he calls Athenodorus, has been ordered to leave Rome and give evidence in a case involving stolen property. Athenodorus' departure coincides with the arrival of a new freedman for the current emperor, but Pliny isn't satisfied with this tidbit of gossip. He wants to know more about the man himself, so he goes to visit. And there he has an interesting conversation. The man turns out to be quite articulate and quick-witted. Pliny says that he engages the ex-slave in conversation and learns that he's not only intelligent, but also well-read. Despite this, the freedman seems unfazed by his former status. It appears that he's doing well for himself now and takes pride in his work as a money changer. But what really catches Pliny's attention is the man's story of how he saved his master a significant amount of money. It turns out that the emperor at the time had given him a woolen cloak as a gift, but the tailor had grossly overcharged for its cleaning, threatening to destroy the fabric if they didn't pay up. Now, normally, Pliny tells Pomponianus he wouldn't have cared about the price. After all, it was someone else's cloak. But this got him thinking. How much do other people spend on laundering their clothes? Could his friend save money if he took his clothes to a different launderer? Intrigued by this possibility, he decides to investigate. Pliny visits 3 different laundries and asks about the cost of cleaning his own cloak. The first to refuse to name a price until they see the garment, but the third launderer is happy to provide a quote without even inspecting the cloak. When Pliny asks why the third launderer gave him a price estimate without examining the garment, the man replies that since all garments aren't created equal, it's best to examine them before providing a quote. Then, after discussing various methods of cleaning, the main character says something surprising. He admits that his old master would have been better off hiring him to clean his cloak, because he would have done it for free. This leads to a deeper conversation about the value of knowledge and experience. The man explains that despite having cleaned clothes for many important people, he's never been able to charge exorbitant prices. Instead, his business relies on word of mouth and a reputation for quality. He emphasizes that while he may not be rich, he doesn't need wealth to be happy. For him, knowing that he's doing a good job is enough. After hearing this, Pliny becomes even more convinced that his friend should take his clothes to this particular laundry. And sure enough, the friend ends up saving a significant amount of money. Over the course of the letter, we see Pliny grappling with whether to trust the man's judgment. First, he hesitates, wondering if someone who has handled so many valuable garments for wealthy Romans might not be telling the truth. But ultimately, Pliny is swayed by the man's argument. This story reveals Pliny's inquisitive nature. Even in the midst of a dinner party, he's not content to just eat and drink. Instead, he engages the company in intellectual discourse, managing to integrate his own thoughts into theirs. Similarly, when he hears the man's claim that he's able to identify which wine is superior without looking at it, Pliny doesn't accept it blindly. He tests the man, presenting him with 5 wines of varying qualities and asking him to tell which is the best. The man rises to the challenge and successfully identifies the highest quality wine. Impressed by this display of skill, Pliny resolves to delve deeper into the subject. Later, he visits 3 different laundry facilities and gets quotes from each. But even after getting those quotes, he still isn't satisfied. So he brings the man back to his house to test his skills on his own clothes. This time, the man examines the garments carefully before naming his price, demonstrating his expertise and professionalism. In the end, Pliny's curiosity pays off. He finds a skilled and trustworthy launderer who does an excellent job for a reasonable price. But it's not just about finding a good deal. Pliny values the opportunity to learn from someone with specialized knowledge. The man's explanation of his trade gives Pliny insight into the importance of reputation and hard work. By listening to this expert, Pliny gains a broader perspective on the world around him. Imagine Pliny in conversation with one of these master laundry workers. Perhaps during the midday pause, when the heat made treading vats temporarily unbearable, the older fullones, initially perhaps somewhat bewildered by the attention of such an obviously wealthy and educated man, gradually warms to the genuine interest in his responses. Pliny's questions are not the casual inquiries of someone making polite conversation, but the focused investigation of someone who truly wants to understand. Tell me about wool from different regions, Pliny might ask. Does Gallic wool respond differently to your treatments than wool from Spain? The fulloness, realizing he is speaking to someone who actually cares about the answer, begins to share knowledge accumulated over decades of daily practice. He explains how wool from sheep raised in different climates requires different handling, how the lanolin content varies with diet and season, how certain types of stains prove more troublesome with some wools than others. These conversations would continue for hours, with Pliny taking careful notes, asking follow-up questions, seeking to understand not just the what, but the why behind each technique. He possessed the rare ability to listen without judgment, find genuine interest in subjects that others might consider beneath their dignity. This quality made him an invaluable recorder of his age, because people trusted him with their specialized knowledge. The breadth of Pliny's interests meant that he could see connections that escaped more narrowly focused observers. His study of laundry techniques informed his understanding of chemistry more broadly. His conversations with perfumers revealed principles that applied to food preparation. His observations about textile dyeing provided insights into painting and artistic techniques. He approached knowledge as an interconnected web, rather than a collection of separate subjects. Today, Pliny is remembered primarily as a writer whose work provides us with valuable insights into the Roman world. However, he held various public offices, including the prestigious position of governor of Bithynia and Pontus in Asia Minor. In this role, he demonstrated similar curiosity and diligence. Pliny's writings about his time as governor, known as the Panegyrici, reveal his attentiveness to detail and his desire to understand the complexities of the Roman Empire. He meticulously records aspects of daily life, governance, and the people he meets during his travels, offering a rich source of information about the Roman world. For example, Pliny's correspondence includes a detailed account of the eruption of Mount Vesuvius, which buried the Roman cities of Pompeii and Herculaneum. His description not only provides valuable information about this historic event, but also shows how Pliny's vast network of contacts allowed him to gather information quickly and efficiently. Similarly, Pliny's efforts to improve the lives of the people in his province through infrastructure projects, land reform, and the establishment of courts demonstrate his commitment to public service and his deep understanding of the needs of the communities he served. Overall, Plinius' career as a Roman official is an essential part of understanding his legacy as one of the most important figures of the 1st century AD. While he is often remembered as a writer, it is important to recognize the breadth of his contributions to Roman society. Through his work as a lawyer, administrator, diplomat, and provincial governor, Pliny helped shape the Roman Empire in significant ways, and his efforts continue to influence our understanding of the ancient world today. If you enjoyed this video and would like to support our channel, please consider making a donation. Your generosity helps us produce more engaging and educational content about the fascinating lives of historical figures. Thank you for watching. In today's episode, we are going to look at an ancient man who collected data, made observations, and kept notes. You might think that it sounds pretty mundane, but in fact, I think this ancient man did more experimenting than many people today. His name was Pliny the Elder, and he lived in the 1st century AD in the Roman Empire. His full name was Pliny the Elder Gaius, Plinius Secundus, and he is probably best known for having written a monumental work called Naturalis Historia, or Natural History. It was published in 77, 37 years before the destruction of the Great Library at Alexandria, and it contains information about everything Pliny knew, which was quite a lot. The encyclopedia contains 20 books and covers topics from astronomy to zoology, geography, agriculture, art, architecture, and much more. So for our purposes, what is particularly interesting about this work is that it was based on Pliny's first-hand experience of the world. See, Pliny wasn't born into wealth. In fact, he was once a young man without any prospects at all. He traveled around Italy and the provinces looking for work. But soon, he hit upon an idea. He realized that since he had access to the libraries of Rome and had a reasonably good education, he could make money by answering letters from people asking him obscure facts. Apparently his business boomed and he became rich. Well, according to some stories anyway. For our purposes, what matters is that Pliny the Elder decided to expand his service to the public. Instead of just answering questions, he started traveling around the empire, investigating things for himself instead of relying on secondhand sources. So he set out to collect data, make observations, and keep notes. It seems he wanted to visit every place and talk to everyone about their way of life, even criminals. Later in life, he served as a Roman magistrate in various places, including the province of Bithynia and Pontus. There he learned that, although he had official duties, he also had time to collect data, make observations, and keep notes. He wrote back to his friend Tacitus after one of his assignments saying, "You asked me what I have learned. In fact, I have learned just this, that there are two ways of looking at the duties of a magistrate. One narrow and precise, the other comprehensive and humane." So while serving as a magistrate, Pliny sought to be comprehensive and humane, and he gathered information about all aspects of Roman life, not just what concerned his job. He collected information from others too. Pliny the Younger, his nephew and literary executor, later wrote that his uncle treated any time not spent in learning or writing as time wasted. So if you think your research schedule is crazy, Pliny would have fit right in. He reportedly rose before dawn and worked until late into the night, taking only brief breaks for meals and the minimum sleep necessary to maintain his health. He paid attention to everything, and his vast network of contacts around the empire made sure he got new information constantly. Pliny the Younger tells us that his uncle received letters from friends in every corner of the earth, and Pliny the Elder made sure to personally deliver the contents of these letters to those who had asked for them. So while Pliny the Elder was alive, he created a database of sorts, an index of information that people needed and where they could find it. But the data, observations, and notes of Pliny the Elder didn't stop there. He also kept a journal and made extensive notes during his travels. During the reign of Vespasian, Pliny was imperial procurator of the grain supply, and he was sent to Egypt to oversee the grain harvest. This gave him the chance to study the Nile River, and he wrote about its flooding patterns, currents, and tides. He observed the stars in Egypt and compared them to the stars of Rome. He examined Egyptian agriculture and carefully noted the dates of the solstices and equinoxes. But soon he was sent away from Egypt, and he was given a new mission in another faraway province, Africa. Pliny wrote to his friend Tacitus about how difficult it was to travel there, having to endure the rough sea and land journeys across deserted areas. But when he arrived in Africa, he didn't waste any time. He got straight to collecting data, making observations, and keeping notes. He studied the soil, plants, and animals of the area, and he wrote about the fertility of the land and the local methods of farming. He also paid close attention to the Berbers, the indigenous people of North Africa. They were famed for their endurance and ability to survive in the harsh environment. And Pliny carefully noted their lifestyle, food, and customs. He even learned their language and wrote a grammar of it, though unfortunately it has not survived. Although Pliny the Elder traveled extensively, he also spent a lot of time at home in his beloved Italy. Here he pursued his interest in agriculture, and he purchased a large estate near the coast of Naples. He continued his data collection, making observations and keeping notes about agricultural techniques and products from all over the empire. He visited vineyards and orchards and experimented with grafting and pruning, studied local varieties of plants and animals, and he paid attention to the weather and how it affected crops. Pliny was interested in everything, and he wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty. He wrote about the cultivation of vegetables, fruit, and grain, and he was particularly interested in the fullones, the fullers, or cleaners of cloth. He spent time with them in their workshops, watching them clean and dye fabric. He was fascinated by the chemistry of the process and the different materials and techniques they used. He wrote about how the fullers used urine for cleaning, and he experimented with different types of urine, old and new, to see how they worked. Pliny was meticulous in his observations, and he recorded the results of his experiments in detail. He was curious about everything, and he didn't limit himself to just one field of study. So what did Pliny do with all his data, observations, and notes? Compiled them into his magnum opus, Natural History. The book was a huge success, and it went through many editions. It was popular with readers of all ages, and it was used as a source of information for centuries. Pliny's work was so influential that it helped to shape the development of science in the Middle Ages. It was also important for the Renaissance scholars who rediscovered it, because it provided them with a wealth of information about the ancient world. So why do I think that Pliny the Elder was a proto-scientist? Why do I think that he collected more data, made more observations, and kept more notes than many people today? First of all, Pliny wasn't just a writer or a traveler or a magistrate. He was all of these things, but he saw them as part of a larger project. He wanted to understand the world and his place in it, and he was willing to put in the hard work to do it. He didn't rely on others to tell him what he needed to know. He went out and found it for himself. He talked to people, he observed things, and he experimented. Secondly, Pliny wasn't satisfied with just collecting information. He wanted to make sense of it. He looked for patterns and connections and tried to explain what he saw. He didn't just write down facts, he interpreted them. Thirdly, Pliny wasn't just a passive observer. He was an active participant in the world. He grew things, he cleaned things, and he traveled all over the place. He wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty or to ask questions. He was always open to learning something new. Finally, Pliny wasn't just a genius or a madman or a rich eccentric. He was a representative of a new kind of person who emerged in the late Roman Republic, the educated, curious, and active citizen. A person who was interested in everything and who was willing to work hard to understand it. This type of person is someone I admire and respect, and I believe Pliny the Elder was one of the first of his kind. Before we wrap up, I want to thank my supporters. Your support helps me make this show, and it allows me to keep making this show free for everyone. Hello, friends. Gaius Pliny Secundus, Pliny the Younger, was a Roman writer and natural philosopher who was born in 23 AD and died in 79 AD. He was the nephew of Pliny the Elder, who wrote the natural history. It is well known that both Plinies lived in the time of the Roman Empire. However, it is not widely known that both of them were friends of the emperor. Pliny the Younger even dedicated a book to the emperor, and that book was called Panegyricus. And Pliny the Younger also became famous thanks to his friendship with the Roman emperor. But anyway, let us talk about what Pliny the Younger did for us today, and what he did for the history of science. Pliny the Younger had an abiding respect for the ingenuity of everyday people. He observed how they solved practical problems with readily available materials and techniques that were often deceptively simple. He believed that true elegance and solutions lay not in their complexity, but in their ability to achieve their purposes efficiently and effectively. And this respect for practical knowledge led Pliny to develop a particular interest in what we might now call appropriate technology. Solutions that were elegant not because they were complex, but because they achieved their purposes efficiently with available materials. The fullones, or fulling mills, which Pliny visited during his tour of the provinces, represented perfect examples of this principle. These workshops specialized in cleaning and finishing woolen and linen fabrics, an essential part of Roman textile production. The process was anything but simple. The fabric, often soiled and felted from multiple washings, needed to be cleansed without being damaged. The dyes had to be fixed so they wouldn't run. And the whole process had to be carried out with a minimum of waste and a maximum of efficiency. The fullones achieved this with a combination of agile techniques and ingenious adaptations. The fulling mill at the heart of the workshop was a testament to this principle. It may have looked like a primitive crushing device, but it was in fact a sophisticated piece of engineering. It consisted of a heavy stone slab raised slightly off the ground, a basin below it filled with water, and a system of weights and pulleys ingeniously rigged to make the most of gravity and leverage. The entire contraption revolved around a central shaft connected to a series of grooved rollers. Cloth to be processed was wound onto these rollers and then passed through the fulling mill. The process involved not just brute force, but a carefully calibrated interplay of weight and motion.
The heavier the weight dropped, the more the cloth was crushed, but too much weight could damage the fabric.
Similarly, the speed at which the cloth moved through the rollers had to be just right, neither too fast nor too slow. This was a process developed over centuries, honed by the experience of countless artisans. Yet it was not a static technique frozen in time. Even in Pliny's time, the fullers experimented, adapting and refining their methods. Some used a heavier weight, others adjusted the number of rollers, or the angle at which they rotated. Each fuller took pride in his craft, and each sought to produce the finest cloth possible. It was a competition that drove innovation and ensured that no one rested on his laurels. But the fulling process was only one aspect of these workshops. Round it revolved the whole economy of labor, a division of tasks among specialized workers. There were the fullones, or fullers, who operated the milling equipment. Then there were the tinctures, who dyed the cloth in vibrant colors, the tinget, who washed and scoured the cloth before and after the fulling process, and the finally, who gave the finished product its final touches. Each had their own skills and expertise, and yet they all worked in harmony to produce a common product. Pliny the Younger meticulously observed and recorded this intricate dance of labor and machinery. He noted the variety of techniques employed by different fullers, the different types of materials they used, and the different ways in which they organized their workshops. He watched the fulling mill in action, noting the rhythm of its operation and the skill with which the fullers manipulated the levers and pulleys. He saw the cloth emerge from the process, transformed and ready for use. And he was fascinated not just by the process itself, but by the social and economic context in which it took place. He noted the importance of the fulling workshop in the Roman economy, the role it played in providing employment and goods, and the impact it had on the lives of those who worked there. In doing so, Pliny the Younger captured more than just a snapshot of a bygone era. He provided a detailed and nuanced portrait of a crucial aspect of Roman life. He showed how the ancient Romans produced and consumed textiles, how they organized their labor in their workshops, and how they created and sustained their economy. It's more than just an inventory of facts and figures. Pliny's work offered a window into the world of the ancient Romans, a world that was vibrant, dynamic, and full of life. His painstaking observations and careful record-keeping revealed a society that was not just ruled by emperors and generals, but was made up of countless individuals, each with their own skills, their own lives, and their own contributions to make. Today, as we look back on Pliny's work, we can see how his meticulous attention to detail brought the ancient world to life. His descriptions of the fulling workshop, with its skilled laborers and intricate machinery, allow us to hear the hum of activity and feel the energy of a bygone era. Through his words, we can see the threads of Roman society woven together, thread by thread. In the bustling workshops of ancient Rome, as Pliny the Younger pursued his investigations into the everyday practices of Roman life, he was driven by a deep sense of wonder and curiosity. He wanted to understand how the world worked, not just at the level of empires and conquerors, but at the level of individuals and communities. And it was this approach that led him to the fulling workshops, where the mundane task of cleaning cloth became a profound exploration of human ingenuity and social organization. Pliny didn't just observe the fulling process. He delved into it, asking questions and probing for deeper understanding. He talked to the fullers, listened to their stories, and learned their trade. He examined the tools and machinery, analyzed their functions, and explored their origins. He studied the materials, understood their properties, and traced their sources. In doing so, he transformed what might have seemed like a simple craft into a rich and complex tapestry of knowledge. His work was not merely a record of what he saw and heard, but a reflection on the deeper meaning of his observations. He saw in the fulling workshops a microcosm of Roman society, a world unto itself, with its own internal logic and coherence. He saw how individual skills and expertise came together to produce a common good. He saw how the constraints of materials and tools shaped the possibilities of design and innovation. He saw how the rhythms of labor and the cycles of production were embedded in the natural world. In other words, Pliny didn't just observe the fulling process, he interpreted it. He interpreted it as a way of understanding Roman life, Roman society, and the human condition itself. And it was this interpretative approach that made his work so remarkable. It was this ability to find patterns and connections that allowed him to create a coherent and meaningful account of Roman civilization. For Pliny, the world was not just a collection of isolated facts and events, but a web of relationships and interactions. He saw how the fulling workshops were part of a larger network of production and exchange. He saw how they depended on the agricultural sector for raw materials and the merchant class for distribution. He saw how they contributed to the economic prosperity and the cultural richness of Roman society. In exploring the inner workings of these workshops, Pliny was able to connect the seemingly mundane to the grand sweep of Roman history. He showed how the everyday practices of ordinary Romans were not just trivial matters, but essential components of a great civilization. He demonstrated the ingenuity, the enterprise, and the creativity that lay at the heart of Roman society. And it was this demonstration that made his work so influential. It paved the way for a new way of understanding Roman history, one that emphasized the importance of everyday life, economic activity, and cultural practices. Pliny the Younger showed how the true nature of a civilization could be found not just in its monuments and its rulers, but in the lives and work of its people. In the end, it was this passion for direct observation and this commitment to understanding the world around him that led Pliny the Younger to his untimely death. When Mount Vesuvius erupted and destroyed Pompeii and Herculaneum, Pliny was serving as commander of the Roman fleet in the Bay of Naples. Though he could have easily stayed at a safe distance, his scientific curiosity drew him closer to the disaster, seeking to observe and document this unprecedented natural phenomenon. Unfortunately, he was overcome by the volcanic gases and lost his life. Yet, even in his death, Pliny the Younger exemplified the qualities that had made him such a remarkable observer and historian. He died pursuing knowledge, driven by a thirst for understanding that knew no bounds. In his death, as in his life, he embodied the spirit of exploration and discovery that has inspired generations of scientists and historians alike. He wasn't famous for being an adventurer, for traveling too far off lands, or for having exciting escapades. But Pliny the Elder's legacy lived on in his writings, preserving for future generations not just the grand sweep of Roman achievement, but the intimate details of how that achievement was actually accomplished. Thanks to his patient documentation, we can understand not just that Romans kept their clothes clean, but exactly how they did it, the techniques, the materials, the social structures that made it possible. In the gentle rhythm of his daily observations, in his respectful attention to the knowledge of ordinary workers, in his understanding that civilization is built as much through small innovations as through great conquests, Pliny the Elder provided a model for how to truly see and appreciate the world around us. His legacy reminds us that the most profound understanding often comes not from dramatic revelations, but from patient, sustained attention to the quiet details of daily life. His book, Natural History, is a vast compendium of all the knowledge that was available in the Roman world about everything under the sun. And yet, in many ways, it is also an intensely personal book. It reflects not just Pliny's insatiable curiosity about the world, but also his deep respect for the people who inhabit it. He doesn't just want to know how things are done, he wants to know why they're done that way, what the people's lives are actually like. This is especially evident in his discussions of clothing. In one passage, he describes how the Gauls, people known by the Romans for wearing long, loose robes, actually took great pains to keep their clothes clean and fresh. They washed them not just with water, but with urine, because they knew that the ammonia in it could help break down dirt and odors. Now, this is not the sort of thing that Romans would have been familiar with, since they generally saw urine as something dirty and demeaning. But Pliny doesn't just dismiss the Gauls' practices as disgusting or barbaric. He explains why it might actually be useful and even necessary in certain circumstances. He doesn't use the information to make the Gauls seem strange or inferior, but to offer a more complete and nuanced understanding of their culture. Similarly, he doesn't limit himself to the elite or the famous. He's just as interested in the lives of ordinary people, and he seems to have a particular fondness for those who work with their hands. He has a lot of respect for the skills and knowledge of artisans and laborers. He talks about the importance of their work and the value of their expertise. This is especially evident in his discussion of dyeing techniques. A complicated process that requires a lot of skill and knowledge. Pliny talks about the different materials that can be used to dye fabrics, as well as the different techniques that can be employed. He doesn't just talk about the high-end stuff either. The expensive dyes that are used to color the garments of the wealthy. Also talks about the more humble dyes that are used to color the clothes of ordinary people. And he does this not to denigrate the latter, but to show how even the most basic materials can be transformed into something beautiful and valuable through the skill of the artisan. This is the real legacy of Pliny the Elder, a legacy that extends beyond the confines of his own time and place and speaks to the enduring power of human curiosity and ingenuity. It's a reminder that no matter where we are or what we do, we're all part of the same human story, a story that's been shaped by the countless acts of creativity and innovation that have occurred throughout history. It's a legacy that inspires us to be more curious, more open-minded, and more appreciative of the world around us. Thank you for watching this video.
As we drift deeper into the world of ancient Roman cleaning, imagine yourself descending into the mystery that surrounds the lost arts of stain removal techniques so effective that their secrets died with the civilization that created them. Picture the dim interior of a fullonica in the hours before dawn, where master craftsmen prepare their mysterious concoctions with the careful precision of alchemists, mixing substances that modern science is only beginning to understand. The true artistry of Roman laundry work lay not in the simple washing of clean garments, but in the complex chemistry of restoration, the patient process by which the seemingly ruined could be made perfect again. Each type of stain presented its own puzzle, requiring specific knowledge, passed down through generations of practitioners who learned through trial, observation, and the accumulated wisdom of their craft. Imagine yourself observing as an experienced fullones examines a toga brought in by a distressed customer. The garment tells a story written in stains wine spilled during an animated dinner conversation, oil from a lamp that guttered at an inopportune moment, the yellowish marks that speak of age and repeated wear. To untrained eyes, these marks might seem permanent, evidence of damage beyond repair. But to the fullones, they represent familiar challenges, each requiring its own particular solution. The wine stain, deep red against the white wool, would receive immediate attention. Roman cleaning, wisdom held that wine stains must be treated while still fresh, before the tannins had time to bond permanently with the fabric fibers. The fullones would begin with a treatment that might surprise modern observers: fresh white wine, poured generously over the red stain, and worked gently into the fabric with careful fingers. This technique, preserved in the writings of ancient authors and confirmed by modern archaeological investigation, relies on a principle that chemists now understand clearly: the alcohol in the white wine dissolves the pigments in the red wine, while the acidity helps break down the compounds that cause staining. The Romans discovered this through experience, noting that red wine stains treated with white wine often disappeared entirely, leaving no trace of their former presence. But wine was expensive, and not every customer could afford such treatment for their garments. For these situations, the fullones had developed alternative methods, using more readily available materials. A mixture of fermented grape juice and salt, rubbed carefully into the stain and left to work for several hours, could achieve similar results at a fraction of the cost. Oil stains presented different challenges and required different solutions. The fullones examining our hypothetical toga would identify the source of the olive oil from cooking, lamp oil from lighting, or perhaps the scented oils used in personal grooming. Each type of oil required slightly different treatment, knowledge that came only through years of experience and careful observation. For olive oil stains, the preferred treatment involved a paste made from fuller's earth and warm water, mixed to the consistency of thick cream. This clay, imported from specific deposits, known for their absorptive properties, possessed an almost magical ability to draw oils from fabric without damaging the underlying fibers. The paste would be spread carefully over the stain and left to dry slowly, drawing the oil up and out of the fabric as the moisture evaporated. The chemical principles behind this process are now well understood. The fuller's earth consists of clay minerals with a structure that naturally attracts and binds oil molecules. But the Romans discovered and perfected this technique through pure observation and experimentation, developing methods that modern conservators still use when treating ancient textiles. More mysterious are the treatments used for stains that defied these standard approaches. Ancient sources mention recipes involving substances that seem almost magical in their specificity: powdered bones from particular animals, ashes from specific types of wood, plant extracts prepared according to carefully guarded formulas. These treatments were often closely held secrets, passed down within families of fullones, or shared only among trusted colleagues. Archaeological investigations of Roman fullonici have uncovered traces of some of these mysterious substances. Chemical analysis of residues found in ancient workspaces has revealed the presence of compounds that suggest sophisticated understanding of cleaning chemistry. Traces of potash, a powerful alkali derived from wood ash, indicate that Roman cleaners understood the principle of using basic solutions to neutralize acidic stains. Even more intriguing are the traces of organic compounds that suggest the use of plant-based cleaning agents. The Romans apparently knew how to extract saponin's natural soap-like compounds from various plants, creating cleaning solutions that were both effective and gentle on delicate fabrics. These plant-based cleaners were particularly prized for treating silk and other imported luxury materials that could be damaged by harsher treatments. The preparation of these cleaning compounds was itself a skilled craft requiring careful timing and precise technique. Imagine yourself observing as a fullonus prepares a batch of ash-based cleaning solution. The process begins with the careful selection of wood different types of trees produce ashes with different chemical properties, and the experienced cleaner knows which ashes work best for which purposes. The wood is burned in a controlled manner, producing ash that is then collected and stored in sealed containers to prevent contamination from moisture or other substances. When needed, the ash is mixed with water in carefully measured proportions, creating a solution whose strength must be tested before use. Too weak, and it will have no effect on the stains. Too strong, and it may damage the fabric or leave unsightly marks of its own. This testing process required its own specialized knowledge. The fullonus would test the strength of the solution on a small, inconspicuous area of the garment, watching for any adverse reactions before proceeding with the full treatment. This careful approach protected both the garment and the reputation of the cleaner, ensuring that the cure would not prove worse than the problem. Some stains required treatments that bordered on the mystical in their complexity. Ancient sources describe elaborate procedures for removing ink stains that involved multiple steps performed at specific times of day, using materials prepared according to precise formulas. These treatments often took several days to complete, requiring patience and skill that marked the difference between ordinary cleaners and true masters of the craft. The removal of ink stains was particularly challenging because Roman inks were designed to be permanent, made from carbon black mixed with gum and other binding agents. These inks were intended to resist fading and washing. Removing them from fabric required breaking down the binding agents without destroying the fabric itself, a delicate chemical dance that few cleaners could perform successfully. The techniques used for this process involved multiple soaking stages, each using different solutions designed to target specific components of the ink. The first treatment might use a mild acid to begin breaking down the binding agents. This would be followed by treatments with alkali solutions to neutralize the acid and continue the breakdown process. Finally, the stained area would be treated with absorptive clays to draw out the loosened ink particles. Modern attempts to recreate these techniques have met with mixed success. While the basic principles are sound and the individual components are well understood, the precise timing and proportions used by Roman cleaners remain matters of educated guesswork. The loss of this knowledge represents one of the many casualties of civilizational change skills that were once common becoming mysteries when the social structures that preserved them disappeared. Perhaps even more mysterious are the treatments used for stains of biological origin, blood, sweat, and other bodily fluids that were inevitable consequences of daily life in ancient Rome. These stains presented particular challenges because they involved proteins that could bond permanently with fabric fibers if not treated properly. Roman cleaning wisdom included sophisticated understanding of how to break down protein-based stains without damaging the underlying fabric. Treatments often involved enzymes derived from plant sources substances that could break down proteins at the molecular level. The Romans discovered these enzymatic treatments through observation and experimentation, noting that certain plant extracts had remarkable effects on specific types of stains. One of the most effective treatments involved the use of radish juice, applied fresh to protein-based stains. Modern analysis has confirmed that radish contains enzymes that are particularly effective at breaking down blood proteins, making this ancient remedy scientifically sound as well as practically effective. The Romans also developed treatments for the yellowing that affected white garments over time, a process that modern science understands as the gradual oxidation of fabric fibers and residual oils. Their solution involved a combination of sulfur fumigation and exposure to sunlight, a process that provided both bleaching and antimicrobial effects. The sulfur treatment, which we observed in our earlier exploration of daily fullones life, was more complex than it might initially appear. The sulfur was burned at specific temperatures to produce particular types of smoke, and the exposure time was carefully controlled to achieve maximum whitening without fabric damage. This process required understanding of how different fabrics responded to sulfur treatment, knowledge that came only through extensive experience. Modern textile conservators have found that these Roman bleaching techniques, when properly applied, are actually gentler on ancient fabrics than many modern chemical bleaches. The Romans developed their methods through trial and error over centuries, refining them to achieve maximum effectiveness with minimum damage, a balance that modern chemistry is only beginning to fully appreciate. The mystery deepens when we consider the social aspects of this specialized knowledge. The most effective stain removal techniques were closely guarded secrets, passed down within families, or shared only among trusted colleagues. This created a hierarchy within the fullones, where ordinary workers performed basic cleaning tasks, while master craftsmen handled the most challenging restoration work. These master cleaners occupied a unique position in Roman society. While their trade was considered humble, their specialized knowledge made them indispensable to wealthy Romans who valued their appearance above almost everything else. A fullones who could remove impossible stains or restore ruined garments to perfection might develop a clientele of elite customers willing to pay premium prices for superior service. The techniques used by these masters were often surrounded by ritual and ceremony that added to their mystique. Certain treatments were performed only at specific times of day or during particular phases of the moon. While some of these practices may have had practical benefits, temperature and humidity variations could affect the success of certain chemical processes. Others seem to have been purely ceremonial, designed to enhance the perceived value and effectiveness of the service. As evening settles over our exploration of these ancient mysteries, we find ourselves contemplating the gap between what was once common knowledge and what has become archaeological puzzle. The fullones who practiced these arts daily, who mixed their solutions and applied their treatments with the confidence of long experience, could never have imagined that their everyday techniques would one day become subjects of scholarly investigation and scientific analysis. Their knowledge, accumulated through generations of patient observation and careful experimentation, represents a form of wisdom that bridged the gap between practical necessity and scientific understanding. They developed effective solutions to complex problems using the materials and methods available to them, creating a system of textile care that served the needs of their civilization for centuries. In the quiet of our modern examination of their lost arts, we can appreciate both the ingenuity of their solutions and the tragedy of their disappearance. These ancient practitioners possessed knowledge that took centuries to develop and only decades to lose, a reminder of how fragile the transmission of practical wisdom can be, and how much we can learn from patient attention to the techniques of our predecessors. As the shadows lengthen and our journey through the world of Roman cleanliness draws toward its close, let us step away from the humid workshops and chemical mysteries of the Fullones to enter a very different realm, the perfumed world of Roman elite, where cleanliness was not merely a necessity, but an elaborate art form, a social performance, and a mark of civilization itself. Imagine yourself crossing the threshold from the narrow streets, where laundry workers labored, to the marble-floored atrium of a wealthy Roman household. Here, the morning light filters through high windows onto surfaces that gleam with meticulous care. The air carries not the sharp scent of ammonia and fuller's earth, but the subtle fragrances of imported oils and exotic perfumes. This is a world where cleanliness has been elevated far beyond mere hygiene, transformed into a complex ritual that occupies hours of each day and employs dozens of specialized servants. Picture the master of this household as he begins his daily ablutions, not the hurried washing of someone preparing for work, but the leisurely, methodical process of someone for whom personal grooming is itself a form of work, a necessary preparation for the social and political activities that define elite Roman life. His morning routine begins before dawn, not with the harsh necessity of earning a living, but with the gentle ministrations of body slaves who have been trained from childhood in the arts of personal care. The ritual begins with the strigil and oil, a process that would be repeated multiple times throughout the day. A slave, chosen for his skill and discretion, begins by warming olive oil in his palms before applying it to his master's skin with long, practiced strokes. The oil is not merely cleansing but medicinal, often infused with herbs chosen for their therapeutic properties. Lavender for its calming effects, rosemary for invigoration, myrrh for its antiseptic qualities, each blend carefully prepared by specialists who understand the subtle arts of aromatherapy. Once the oil has been thoroughly massaged into the skin, the slave takes up the strigil, a curved bronze implement designed to scrape away the oil along with the accumulated dirt, dead skin, and perspiration of daily life. This process requires considerable skill. Too gentle, and the cleaning is ineffective. Too vigorous, and the skin becomes irritated and inflamed. The slave's hands move with the confidence of long practice, applying just enough pressure to cleanse, without discomfort. This intimate process of oiling and scraping creates a relationship between master and servant that has no equivalent in our modern world. The slave must be trusted with the most personal aspects of his master's physical care, must be skilled enough to provide effective cleansing without causing pain, must be discreet enough to ignore the vulnerabilities that such intimate contact inevitably reveals. In return, the master depends on this servant's expertise for the maintenance of the physical appearance that is essential to his social position. The morning ablutions are only the beginning of a day structured around cleanliness and personal care. After the initial strigil and oil treatment, the master's skin is patted dry with soft linen towels, then anointed with lighter oils chosen for their pleasant scent rather than their cleansing properties. These finishing oils serve as a kind of personal signature, a subtle announcement of wealth and refinement that will accompany the wearer throughout his day. While the master's person receives this careful attention, other slaves are engaged in the equally important task of preparing his clothing for the day. The toga that will mark him as a Roman citizen of status has been returned from the fullonica, pristine and perfectly pressed. But even this professional cleaning is only the beginning of the garment's preparation. House slaves, trained in the subtle arts of fabric care, examine every fold and drape of the garment, ensuring that no wrinkle or imperfection mars its appearance. They understand that the toga is not merely clothing, but a complex social symbol, and that its proper arrangement communicates messages about the wearer's status, taste, and attention to detail. The way the fabric falls, the precise positioning of the folds, the angle at which it drapes over the shoulder, all of these details must be perfect before the master can appear in public. The process of donning a toga requires the assistance of multiple servants and considerable time. This is not a garment that can be simply put on. It must be carefully wrapped and arranged according to complex conventions that have been refined over centuries. Each fold must be positioned precisely, each drape calculated to create the proper silhouette and movement. An improperly arranged toga immediately marks its wearer as either unfashionable or, worse, as someone who cannot afford proper assistance in dressing. As the morning progresses, the master's routine moves from private grooming to public preparation. This transition is marked by the application of cosmetics, not the simple functional preparations used by working Romans, but elaborate concoctions designed to enhance appearance and communicate social status. Roman men of the upper classes routinely used makeup, though the art lay in its subtle application rather than obvious display. The face might be dusted with powder made from crushed pearls or fine white lead, creating a pale complexion that indicated a life spent indoors rather than laboring under the sun. The eyebrows might be darkened with soot mixed with oil, the cheeks touched with a hint of rouge made from cinnabar or red ochre. These preparations were applied by skilled cosmetic slaves who understood the delicate balance between enhancement and excess. The master's hair receives equally careful attention. Roman fashion for men of status required elaborate styling that could take an hour or more to achieve. The hair might be curled with heated bronze rods, arranged in complex patterns that required considerable skill to create and maintain. Perfumed oils were worked through the hair, both to hold the style and to provide a subtle scent that would accompany the wearer throughout the day. Even the master's nails received attention from specialized servants. Roman upper-class men maintained their nails with the same care that modern people might devote to their teeth. The nails were filed to precise shapes, buffed to a shine, and sometimes even tinted with subtle dyes. This attention to such small details was part of the larger system of signals that communicated social status. Only someone with abundant leisure time and skilled servants could maintain such perfection in every aspect of their appearance. But the true centerpiece of elite Roman cleanliness culture was the bath, not the quick functional washing that working Romans might manage at public fountains, but the elaborate ritual of the thermae, the great bath complexes that served as social centers, business venues, and temples to the art of cleanliness. Imagine yourself following our carefully groomed Roman citizen as he makes his way to the baths in the afternoon, the fashionable hour, when the elite gathered to see and be seen. The great bath complex rises before you like a temple to physical pleasure. Its marble columns and ornate decorations, announcing the importance that Roman society placed on the rituals of cleansing and relaxation. The bath experience begins in the apoditerium, the changing room where slaves help their masters remove their carefully arranged clothing. Here, the garments that took so much time and effort to prepare are entrusted to servants who will guard them during the bathing process. The naked body that emerges from these fine clothes reveals the final product of the morning's grooming skin that has been oiled, scraped, and perfumed until it gleams with health and care. The progression through the baths follows a carefully prescribed sequence designed to maximize both cleanliness and pleasure. First, the tepidarium, the warm room where the body adjusts gradually to the heat that will follow. Here, bathers might spend considerable time in conversation, conducting business, or simply relaxing in the gentle warmth. The air is thick with steam and the sound of quiet conversation, creating an atmosphere of leisure and comfort. From the tepidarium, the bather moves to the caldarium, the hot room where the serious business of cleansing takes place. Here, the heat opens the pores and induces the perspiration that will carry away the day's accumulation of dirt and tension. Slaves attend constantly, providing cool drinks, adjusting the temperature, and ensuring their master's comfort. The process cannot be hurried. Proper cleansing requires time for the heat to work its effects. The hot room experience culminates in another application of oil and strigil, performed by bath slaves who specialize in the service. These attendants possess skills that rival those of the master's personal servants, understanding how to adapt their techniques to the heat and humidity of the bath environment. The oil used here is different from that applied in the morning lighter, more easily removed, designed to enhance the cleansing effects of the heat and steam. After the thorough cleansing of the hot room, the bather moves to the frigidarium, the cold room where the shock of cool water closes the pores and invigorates the body. This transition from heat to cold is considered essential for both health and pleasure, a dramatic contrast that leaves the bather feeling refreshed and energized. Some Romans repeat this cycle multiple times, moving back and forth between hot and cold rooms in a ritual that can occupy several hours. The bath experience concludes with a final application of oils and perfumes, applied by specialized attendants who understand the subtle art of scent layering. These finishing touches are chosen not just for their pleasant fragrance, but for their lasting power, the scents that will accompany the bather for the rest of the day. Subtle signatures of wealth and refinement. But the baths serve purposes beyond mere cleansing. They are social institutions where business is conducted, relationships are maintained, and status is displayed. The elaborate rituals of Roman bathing create opportunities for the kind of casual interaction that oils the machinery of elite society. Conversations begun in the tepidarium might continue over dinner. Relationships formed in the caldarium might influence political decisions. Alliances forged in the atmosphere of shared leisure might shape the future of the empire. The contrast between this world of leisure and luxury and the world of the fullones who make it possible is stark and intentional. The Roman elite understood that their elaborate cleanliness rituals were made possible by the labor of others, but they also understood that this division of labor was what allowed them to elevate cleanliness from mere necessity to high art. As evening approaches and our Roman citizen completes his bath ritual, he emerges transformed, not just cleaned but renewed, not just groomed but perfected. His skin glows with health and careful attention. His hair is perfectly arranged. His nails are immaculate. His clothing is spotless. He carries himself with the confidence of someone who knows that every detail of his appearance communicates wealth, status, and civilization. The servants who have made this transformation possible fade into the background, invisible facilitators of a lifestyle that depends entirely on their skilled labor. They will return to their quarters, their own cleanliness maintained at a much more basic level, their own comfort secondary to that of their master. The system that supports Roman elite cleanliness depends on this hierarchy, this division between those who labor and those who benefit from that labor. Yet even within this hierarchy, there are gradations of privilege and comfort. The household slaves who attend to personal grooming occupy positions of relative trust and status within the servant hierarchy. They possess valuable skills, enjoy intimate relationships with their masters, and often achieve a level of material comfort that exceeds that of free citizens engaged in less favored occupations. As night falls over Rome and the elite retire to their comfortable beds, the great machinery of cleanliness continues its work. In the Fullones, night shift workers tend to garments that will be needed for tomorrow's display. In the Thermae, slaves work through the night to maintain the fires that heat the baths, to clean the pools and rooms that will receive tomorrow's bathers, to prepare the oils and perfumes that will enhance tomorrow's rituals. This is the hidden foundation of Roman cleanliness culture, the constant, invisible labor that makes possible the visible display of luxury and refinement. The smooth functioning of this system depends on the skills of countless workers, from the fullones who removes impossible stains to the bath slave, who knows exactly how to apply the strigil for maximum comfort and effectiveness. In the gentle quiet of the Roman night, as the city settles into sleep, we can appreciate the complexity of the civilization that made such elaborate cleanliness possible. It was a society that valued appearance highly enough to dedicate enormous resources to its maintenance, that developed technologies and techniques for personal care that would not be equaled for centuries after Rome's fall, that created social rituals around cleanliness, that reinforced the hierarchies and relationships that held the empire together. The legacy of Roman cleanliness culture extends far beyond the specific techniques and technologies they developed. It established the principle that cleanliness could be more than functional necessity, that it could serve as a form of social communication, that it could be elevated to the level of art. This understanding would influence European culture for centuries, establishing patterns of behavior and values that continue to shape our own relationships with cleanliness and personal care. As our journey through the world of ancient Roman cleanliness draws to its gentle close, we find ourselves standing at the intersection of past and present, where the distant rhythms of an ancient craft echo softly in the comfort of our modern evening. We have walked through the humid workshops where fullones labored over their mysterious chemistry, have witnessed the patient observations of Pliny the Elder as he cataloged the wisdom of ordinary workers, have explored the lost secrets of stain removal that once seemed miraculous to those who practiced them, and have glimpsed the elaborate rituals of cleanliness that marked the Roman elite. In each of these worlds, the practical realm of daily labor, the scholarly pursuit of knowledge, the mysterious domain of specialized technique, and the luxurious sphere of social display, we have discovered the same fundamental truth, that the simple act of keeping clean was never simple at all, but rather a complex web of relationships, skills, and social meanings that helped define what it meant to be Roman. The fullones whose dawn to dusk labor we observed possessed more than mere technical skills. They were custodians of a knowledge system that had evolved over centuries, guardians of techniques that transformed the impossible into the routine. Their work supported not just the appearance of Roman society, but its very conception of itself as civilized, orderly, and superior to the barbarian world beyond its borders. Pliny the Elder, with his insatiable curiosity about the mundane details of daily life, recognized something that we might sometimes forget, that civilization is built not just through grand gestures and monumental achievements, but through the accumulation of countless small innovations, practical solutions, and patient improvements in the ordinary tasks of existence. His careful documentation of laundry techniques reminds us that the preservation of knowledge requires not just libraries and schools, but attention to the wisdom embedded in daily practice. The mysterious chemistry of Roman stain removal, with its secret recipes and closely guarded formulas, speaks to the fragility of practical knowledge and the ease with which specialized skills can disappear when the social structures that support them are disrupted. These lost arts remind us that human ingenuity often operates through trial and error, through generations of careful observation and gradual refinement, creating solutions that may be more sophisticated than they initially appeared. And the elaborate cleanliness rituals of the Roman elite, with their complex social meanings and dependence on the labor of others, illustrate how even the most basic human needs can be transformed into instruments of social distinction, markers of status, and expressions of cultural values. Together, these different aspects of Roman cleanliness culture create a portrait of a society that understood both the practical necessity and the symbolic power of being clean. They developed technologies and techniques that served functional needs while also supporting complex social and cultural purposes. They created systems that were both efficient and meaningful, both practical and expressive. As you settle into the comfort of your modern bed tonight, perhaps you can appreciate the journey that human civilization has taken from those ancient fullones treading clothes in vats of urine-treated water to our contemporary methods of maintaining cleanliness. The basic human needs remain the same. We still require clean clothing, still value fresh scents, still use cleanliness as a form of social communication. But the methods have evolved, the social meanings have shifted, and many of the techniques that once seemed essential have been forgotten. Yet something persists across the centuries: the recognition that cleanliness is more than mere hygiene, that the care we take with our appearance reflects deeper values about how we want to present ourselves to the world, that the rituals of daily maintenance connect us to fundamental aspects of what it means to be human. In the gentle rhythm of water against stone, in the patient repetition of daily care, in the quiet satisfaction of work well done, we can hear echoes of those ancient practitioners whose skills and dedication kept an empire clean. Their legacy lives on not just in archaeological remains or historical accounts, but in our continued understanding that the seemingly mundane tasks of daily life carry within them the seeds of civilization itself. The fullones of ancient Rome have long since returned to dust. Their workshops have crumbled, their secret formulas have been forgotten, but their recognition that ordinary work, performed with skill and dedication, contributes to the larger project of human civilization, continues to resonate. In their patient labor, their careful attention to detail, their pride in craft well practiced, they offer us a model for finding meaning and satisfaction in the daily work of maintaining the world we inhabit. As sleep gently approaches, allow yourself to rest in the knowledge that you are part of this continuing human story, that your own daily rituals of cleanliness and care connect you to countless generations who have understood that civilization is built one clean garment, one careful technique, one small act of maintenance at a time. In the quiet of your modern comfort, you can honor the memory of those ancient workers whose forgotten skills helped create the foundation upon which our own civilization rests. Let their patient rhythms carry you toward peaceful sleep, secure in the understanding that the human impulse to create order from chaos, cleanliness from soil, beauty from the mundane materials of daily existence, continues to shape our world just as it shaped theirs. In this continuity across time, in this shared commitment to the careful maintenance of our common life, we find both comfort and connection, a gentle reminder that we are never truly alone in our daily efforts to keep our corner of the world clean, orderly, and worthy of the civilization we hope to pass on to future generations.